Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Sportswire Radio is live right now, and we're talking Major League Baseball and much, much, much more with the Sportswire Radio team at the old ball game. How you doing, everybody? Wow, what a start here to the Major League Baseball season here, and much, much more. A lot to get into here. Some interesting, I guess, throwing it when it comes to the Mets and Nationals we'll get into. We'll recap Yankees and Red Sox and see whatever else on everybody's minds here when it comes to Major League Baseball. In fact, I was actually just going to open up and talk about the Knicks win and the Islanders win, but I actually forgot. It's opening day. Well, opening day was yesterday, but for us, it's opening day. And I've got three of my guys that are going to talk about the season here and much, much more. That includes Justin Gianelli, who you've heard throughout the week here on Sportswire Radio with the Baseball Banter Show. Really, really enjoyed Justin's show this week. And, of course, make sure you check it out because we'll play it throughout the weekend here. Still, of course, Billy McInerney, who I forgot, didn't realize he was a Binghamton University graduate. That reminds me of a frequent Sportswire Radio guest, Nick Chambers, who's also a Binghamton University graduate. And, of course, first I thought it was a Let's Go Knicks shirt, but then I looked up because I'm clearly blind. It's a Let's Go Mets shirt. We're talking, of course, with the L.I. Brew Crew slugger, the legendary St. Joseph's Long Island Golden Eagles men's basketball star, coach for our Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV team, and much, much more, the brute force Brad Weiss. And guys, happy Friday, and how's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good.
Pretty good. Pretty fired up right now.
Doing good, Tom. I mean, what a way to start it with that song. It's probably one of the best songs I've heard in a while.
You know, I didn't plan it that way, and I guess it's just kind of one of those things. We did, I think, 4 hours live talking pro wrestling in England, so I kind of flushed professional wrestling off my just stomach and digested all that when it came to back and forth with professional wrestlers interfering in throughout our live shows yesterday and today. So I decided, well, let's see how this goes, and it can't go as bad as the way it did last night when we were talking with certain professional wrestlers from Odyssey Pro Wrestling and much, much more. But that's a side point in another country. But Major League Baseball certainly has been interesting. I guess we want to say, 36 hours since the season has started. And obviously, we're all Mets fans here. We would have had Chris Pizzay, I guess, from the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals show. But I guess he has maybe late or some conflicts. We'll hear from Rob Marasco, also a noted Mets fan here. So let's get the Mets standpoint in it first. And I'll go into the Yankees should Chris come on or anybody else wants to talk Yankees. But give me your thoughts here, and especially right now between the Mets and Nationals, and certainly it's been one of the more lively game twos I could think of. And I'll go with Justin Gianelli first. And Justin, give me your thoughts on what we're seeing so far between this series and the Mets and Nationals, and especially tonight's game.
I mean, it's just an utter joke that 2 nights in a row, you got the Nationals pitchers throwing at Met players. I mean, 3 times you've seen a player get hit in the shoulder/head area. I mean, you saw, okay, you could excuse the one by Patrick Corbin. The bases were loaded, and he hits McCann in the foot.
And McCann leaned into it. Let's be honest.
But from Corbin's standpoint, you can excuse it. But then McCann gets hit in the shoulder. Then Pete Alonso gets hit in the shoulder, and it ricochets off his face. And then tonight you have Lindor going for a bunt, and he gets drilled right where the flap is on the helmet. I mean, at some point, you got to hold these relievers accountable, and I'm glad the umpires threw Steve Cishek out of the game because at some point it's just inexcusable to continue to throw up there. And I know these Apple TV announcers are talking about the new grip of the ball. You had all spring. You're a professional pitcher. You know how to grip a baseball. I mean, let's
I remember one thing. Remember playing wiffle ball? If anybody played wiffle ball and trying to figure out the wiffle ball curve, but baseball is pretty easy to grip, I would think.
Yeah, it is, and it's just inexcusable for these professional pitchers who are capable of throwing anywhere between 90 and 100 miles per hour to have that kind of control issue where you're hitting somebody near the head or neck area. It's totally inexcusable, and the Nationals need to be held accountable for it.
Well, we'll certainly find out, certainly after the game, what Major League Baseball here decides. And much more. And we do have a message from Chris Pizzea. He'll be here in a little while. Listen, no worries, Chris. Definitely appreciate the honesty here. And listen, things do happen. So we'll be happy to have you whenever you want to join in. And Billy, I mean, again, piggybacking off Justin, I mean, very lively here. First few games with the Mets and Nationals. But I guess we should expect it considering these teams really don't have much love for each other at this point. Billy.
Oh, sorry. I lost you. Feel like I didn't realize talking to me.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't think any of these hit by pitches have been intentional. I don't think they're aiming at them. Especially don't think they're aiming at their heads. But like I said, if you're a major league pitcher, you need to be able to control where the ball is going. I'm glad the Mets came out of the dugout and addressed it. Someone gets in the message that find better pitchers. Like that's really, I'm sorry, that's it's dangerous. It is legitimately dangerous. At the ball move that speeds, you could seriously hurt. You could maybe even kill someone throwing a ball that fast without knowing where it is.
Absolutely.
This is not just a quality of play thing. This is a safety and potentially a life or death situation. These guys, you have to know where the ball is going to be a major league pitcher. I'm sorry, I can't. I mean, how many times we've already seen Kevin Pillar get nailed in the face last year? How many guys do we need to see get serious life-threatening situations before something changes? It is ridiculous.
Remember Juan Encarnacion years ago? I mean, his career pretty much never existed after that.
Right.
Look, accidents will happen. I get it. It's the nature of the game. You're throwing things at a high speed sometimes. Guys can hit 3 times in the span of 9 innings, basically. When you look at one, the first hit.
The Alonso one was just, I mean, that was a brutal one.
That was scary one too. I mean, it's something needs to be done. You need to, you have to know where the ball is going when you throw it. That's as simple as it is. I don't want to hear, high schoolers can throw a ball without, the sticky stuff on it. The Mets pitchers are throwing the ball without sticky stuff on it. I don't want to hear, we don't have the same grip on the ball. Figure it out. Like I said, you're a professional pitcher. Figure it out. It's not. This shouldn't be difficult.
Yeah,
no question.
I don't remember if because I was hearing this on the radio coming home. I don't remember if they said that the Mets led the league last year, but I remembered the number. The Mets got it 94 times last year.
They've led the league the last few years.
Yeah, so I mean, and it was great to see the way Buck Showalter came out of the dugout.
And I gotta say, Buck looks like a Mets manager. Looking at Buck wearing the Mets cap, he looks like a Mets manager.
He looks like a guy in charge, and that's what the Mets have been severely lacking for a long time.
We haven't had that in a long time. A true manager, even Terry Collins. A true manager here, to say the least. And I want to give a shout out to Ted Cheney, of course, who's the host of the Rewind Wrestling podcast, which was live before WrestleMania 38 last Saturday. And, of course, he is from the Pennsylvania area, and he says a big win for the Phillies today. Great opening day. And listen, we've been talking about it here, and somebody stopped me in the street, Ted, this afternoon. They said, Tom, what do you think about the NL East? And I said, the Phillies got a good lineup. They're going to score a lot of runs, and certainly the Phillies are off to a strong start. So obviously, shout out to Ted and Ted. I haven't downloaded this past weekend show that you guys have, so I'll do it after we're done. I apologize that I haven't got a chance to do it. Unfortunately, it's been a very busy past 36 hours, and I actually dozed off for a few minutes. And I'm kind of like Vince McMahon. I don't sleep much, so if I dozed off, that means I was really tired. So that's for a separate discussion for a separate time. But the brute force, Brad Weiss, I'm excited to hear from you because there's a lot to talk about here, especially from the player's standpoint. And let's talk about it from your standpoint as somebody who played most notably and all this stuff that's going on between the Nationals' lack of finding the plate and rather finding Met faces and other body parts. I mean, as a player, talk to me on how you'd feel about this and how you'd take it.
Yeah, well, speaking of players, I'll just say this very quickly. How about Starling Marte have a day today as he just got 2 more RBIs to help us go up 6-3. Big time by Marte. But as per, obviously, what we have to talk about, as a player, I would be extremely upset. Now, I'll be quite honest with everybody here. All right, as you all know, I played college basketball.
You're not being honest because when you always say can I be quite honest, usually means you're not being honest.
Oh, I'm going to be honest, all right, because I played college basketball. All right, my father was a Division I baseball player. I did not choose
baseball
to go,
player too. Yep.
I did not choose to go that direction, and I'll be honest with you. One of the reasons why was exactly what we see when you get hit in the face, like getting hit by pitches that are 95 plus miles an hour. It's scary. And I didn't want any part of that. But listen, there's only a certain amount of times it could happen, especially in 2 damn games. The first 2 games of the season. And I mean, they're not just getting hit, like you said, the first one was in the foot, but you're talking about, the head and neck area. That is a scary proposition. And certainly something that we don't want to see as Mets fans, but more or less when it comes in 2 nights, it's a little outrageous. But I'm going to take another side of this because as a player, like I said, I'd be a little bit upset. I would be frustrated. I'd obviously do what the players did with the Mets today. If it's almost, 3 times, I mean, at some point you got to stick up and do something for your team. But I'm going to take the stance of the umpires because that's a very difficult job. I'll just say this for all those that are wondering. Today I was doing a little kid's birthday party, and I was called a bad umpire twice today, all right, by the kids, all right?
Can you explain why you were called a bad umpire? Because I find this much more curious than interesting than anything else.
Well, they were playing in flag football. These like 4th grade kids playing flag football, and a kid runs in for a touchdown. They're arguing with me about how there was a shove and there should have been an illegal block in the back. I'm like, you know what? It was a touchdown. I didn't see it, all right? So these kids were definitely a little outrageous, calling me a bad umpire, bad ref, But listen, in that situation,
though, you certainly had your moments with the refs, buddy, on the court. I mean, I covered you as a player.
Oh, I definitely did, and I still do as a coach. But as an umpire in this situation, it's difficult because are the Nationals necessarily throwing at the Mets? No. But at the same time, you have to control the game. You cannot continue to let it escalate. And throwing out Cishek was the right move, even though, did he necessarily throw at Lindor in that situation? He was arguing that Lindor turned to bunt and he might have stuck his face in there, but he threw it right at his head. So in the end, the umpire's got to control the game, whether you agree with it or not. They have to control it, and ultimately that's the way they did it. And even though, Nationals might argue, well, he wasn't throwing at him, that's how you control the game. You cannot continue to let it go worse because then you're talking about more and more fights and dugout escalations. And, also, speaking of times of games, I mean, it just makes the game take longer. What are we in the 6th inning and it's already 10 o'clock? So it's taking forever. And ultimately, the umpires have to do something about it, whether the decision is right or wrong, because either side could have thought differently. You have to control the game, and that's what the umpires did. As much as, they're going to get ridiculed, that's their job.
Absolutely, and we're joined here by Donald Stewart. Of course, Donald is a part of the Pinstripe Chronicles show, which you can hear pretty much daily at this point. I mean, you guys pretty much, I think Bobby Tats is probably getting ready for a podcast. Maybe you're warming up here and getting ready for a show. I mean, all kidding aside, obviously, the guys do a great job with Sportswire Radio. Also, the Upper Deck podcast is a part of that. Also, want to give a shout out quickly to Anthony J. Finkel, of course, of DPH Property Maintenance. We'll definitely get to a plug later from Big Fink as well. But Donald, obviously, good to be joined with you, and we'll break.
Always a pleasure, man.
What's that?
Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely, happy to have you. I know we're going to be a part of something else. I know Pete Simonetti from his site. I know you're actually going to be attending that. We'll get to that later on in June as well. But also, we'll take a break from the Mets here in a second and give me the Yankees side here as the Yankees walk away with an opening day win here, 6-5 in extra innings against the Red Sox.
Obviously, it started off on a negative note with the Aaron Judge stuff, as I'm sure we'll get into at some point.
Absolutely.
But as for the game itself, I think there's a lot of stuff to be positive about. I thought that they showed a little bit of more fight this time around than they did all last year. I mean, they made a bunch of comebacks all game. So that's a good sign. I'll take that as a positive. You can't look too much into one game, but it was generally they got some clutch hits, and they didn't get any clutch hits at all last year. So, I mean, if I'm looking for some positive, there's some positives. King was really good out of the bullpen. He made some key outs. And I think there's a lot to be positive about. We'll wait to see, but I'm still very unsure about this team. But from what I saw today, there's reason to be optimism.
I would think there's always reason to be optimistic when you beat the Red Sox on opening day. I mean, at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, especially when it wasn't the best Garrett Cole performance. The fact that Yankees still walk away with the win here, and of course, Aunt Laura here, the Brew Force, has great opening for the New York Yankees. And Don, I want to ask you a question real quick on the Yankees because I was speaking to somebody I know very well who listens to us here in my neck of the woods here in the North Shore of Staten Island. We were talking about the Yankees, and I said, for me, one of the keys to the Yankees season is going to be the back end of the rotation. I mean, is that something you see as one of the keys here for the Yankees in terms of where the Yankees are going to end up ultimately at the end of the season? Give me your thoughts on that very quickly before I get the rest of the guys' thoughts on anything else going on.
Very worried about the rotation outside of Garrett Cole. It's all very much up in the air. Severino, you're going
He came up today at 5 o'clock in the morning. That was our conversation. Severino is going to be, I think, a big factor here.
He is, but he's not pitched properly in like 3 years.
That's why you're asking a lot from him, I think.
You're asking far too much of him. I would have definitely gone into the pitching market in free agency or even trade. I think Sean and I would have made a lot more sense, or even a Robbie Ray. But that it is what it is at this point. So, from what we have, we've got Montgomery, who's, he's got a solid arm. He's not got great stuff, but he's very solid, very reliable. And then you've got Severino, who's got plus stuff, but he's hurt. And Tyon, plus stuff, but he's hurt a lot. I mean, that's kind of the story with the Yankees in general. But the fifth starter spot will be very interesting. We've got Nasty Nestor Cortez, who's a throwback to the 90s in terms of using guile and intelligence on the mound to get outs. I like him a lot. I'm not sure whether he's more of a Ramiro Mendoza type, if you guys remember him from the 90s.
Yeah.
Kind of versatile, but versatile Ramiro
Mendoza. I think he's that type of guy. So if I were the Yankees, I would definitely be trying to get Luis Gil the fifth starter spot at some point very soon, or Clark Schmidt. They've got arms in AAA who are very, very good. It's just, it's obviously a lot to rely on at this stage. The Yankees have never really shown much faith in young arms. They need to kind of do that now, I think, because, it's a big question mark outside of Garrett Cole. And it's the key to the season, man. They need to get healthy, to stay healthy, and they need to find a reliable fourth and fifth starter.
And my other key was you got to beat up on the Baltimore Orioles this year. That was my other key.
We've got Gleyber Torres for that.
That's exactly the.
It's the only team he hits off of.
That's exactly the chuckle I got from one of our listeners when I said that. He said he kind of laughed. He gave a big hearty laugh and said, "Yeah, good point." But when it comes to, I got something I want to ask everybody here, especially for the Met fans. I mean, how are you guys all watching the game, considering it's on Apple TV? Did anybody go out and subscribe? I mean, how are you guys? What are you guys doing for the Met fans on here?
So funny thing is, I just recently got a new iPhone a couple of months ago.
Okay.
And with my purchase came a 3 months free of Apple TV Plus. So I just activated it yesterday. So now I have until July of free Apple TV Plus. So I have a smart TV here in my living room, and I just signed it to my Apple ID, and there it is. But the only negative is I'm trying to watch the Brooklyn Net game too.
Yeah, because it's a big game right now. It's a big game.
So my phone is sitting right here in front of the computer with the Net game on the Yes app, which now thanks to the Yes app, because I have it for the Nets, I get all these stupid Yankee alerts that I don't need.
Well, we do have Yankee fans that listen to us, so I mean, well, a lot of them out there.
And also, I think the game is free. I think it's on Apple TV Plus. I think it's free as long as you have
if you have Apple TV Plus, it's free, but you have to subscribe for it.
Okay, for you, Brad. What's
your let me comment on this. I got choice words for this. Okay.
No, because I want to hear them.
First of all right. Let me get to this first. Okay. I'm going to put this out there right now. All right, right now, at Apple TV, you better be listening. All right, you need to listen to us, and you need to take our crew, Tom Bryce, Justin Gianelli, all right, Donald, all right, and Billy, and put us on that telecast. These people that are doing the telecast, Chris Young is awful. I'll say right now that I'm better than Chris Young. Okay, he is terrible. He's doing a horrible job tonight.
Are we talking about the ex-Met Chris Young?
No, different
Yes.
Chris Young.
Chris Young,
Okay.
the outfielder. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember
Did he
him.
play for the
Yeah.
Mets too?
Yes, he did.
I thought
He did.
right. Play for the Mets.
The tall Chris Young, the pitcher.
No,
is
not the
GM of
pitcher.
Rangers.
The
No,
outfielder.
that's what I'm saying. The tall Chris Young, the pitcher, is the GM of the Rangers now.
Right. I mean, they're just terrible. So, this, obviously we're spoiled when we have Gary, Keith, and Ron, but this is not even. I mean, I got people texting me saying that this sounds like the Little League World Series telecast or the Nickelodeon telecast. I mean, this is.
Hey, I like the Nickelodeon one buster. I like
this show couldn't come fast enough because then I could just put volume 0.
Yeah, it's a great excuse to mute the TV.
And let me just continue because I also again and listen, I can handle it because I got an iPhone. I'm younger. Okay, I have a father who's not great with technology. Okay, and right now, as I'm here on the sports report, I'm trying to make sure that it's working on his TV because he has no clue how to control it. So right now, it's becoming a struggle. Plus, to Justin's point, I actually was trying to watch other games. And plus, with bad internet here in Plainview, it doesn't really help. So in the end, it's just been a complete disaster. I actually, and then, again, some people can be like, why, Brad, why? I actually wanted to see the New York Knicks tonight, all right, because I saw what Obi Toppin was doing. So I was trying to see it. But I couldn't because I had to get stuck to this Apple TV nonsense that's going on.
And that's the worst part about it because if it's a normal night and the game's on SNY, all you got to do is hit last channel. And for you, you can flip to MSG. For me, I could flip to the Yes Network to watch the Nets game. Here, I got 2 devices going, which, whatever. I mean, I guess it's fine for now, but it's like you can't switch in and out of just the channels. You have to switch.
They gotta
do input.
They got to do a better job with this. They got to find a better way. But listen, in the end, I can handle it, but I cannot handle this crew that's announcing this game. I mean, besides the sideline reporter, she's decent. Everybody else, they're terrible, okay? Tom Bryce, myself, Billy, all right, and Justin, Donald will be there, all right? We're pretty good at this. Hire us. We'll do a better job. More people want to watch. These 3 that are doing it, the game, Chris Young, he's awful, awful.
All right, well, certainly we will figure that out. We have a couple of comments I want to acknowledge. First one I want to acknowledge, of course, the Brute Force is your former teammate, of course, our dear friend, Mr. Matt Hurd, obviously from our very, very beloved St. Joseph's Island Golden Eagles. He checks in, Let's Go Mets. Also, John Gonzalez, of course. Don't forget, Brute, me and you are doing a Lions versus Steelers game on the Game Show Network. Yeah, John, that's certainly that's the furthest thing in my mind at the moment. And, of course, somebody from my neck of the woods, Mike Fish. Mike, I haven't run into you in a while. I hope you're doing well out there. I hope everything's well with the family. Obviously, Mike Fish is somebody I've known for eons. In fact, Mike, I actually ran into, what was his name? Larry Morton, I think I ran into today. You probably, you know who I'm talking about. Larry the Drunk from Oakland Avenue. I ran into him, your buddy. So I ran into him actually before we went on the air. So, my regards to you, Mr. Fish, and I was going to ask you, Donald. You got Apple Plus because I'm sure the Yankees are going to be on Apple Plus at some point. I mean, you're going to run into this problem also.
Certainly do not. I can't keep up with all the apps that they're going to be on. They're going to be on the Prime. There's only 21 games on Amazon Prime. Are you kidding me?
Friday night.
Did Peacock get baseball also this year?
Yeah, they're going to have like early Sunday games, and I think they've only announced it for the first half of the season. And I think it's only once for the Mets and once for the Yankees on Peacock.
Okay, all right. And I want to acknowledge some people sharing.
How many more things are they going to be on? I mean, my God.
Well, hey, you know what?
It's a Mets
we're available, by the way. We're available for games. I have to say, we are available.
What I'm saying.
We do have a dial, so if there's somebody out there that wants to share their games, wants to share MLB coverage, by all means, we will. Well, listen, sorry, Don. We'll have to pre Pinstripe Chronicles daily shows, but we'll be happy to do that. I can tell you, we're out there. We love the Pinstripe Chronicles. We love the baseball banter, but we'll be happy to do it. I also want to acknowledge a few people who have shared our shows. Also, Aunt Laura has shared our video for tonight on Facebook. Also, Carol Russo. Carol, of course, is a big supporter of mine. All my people from the neighborhood are coming out here, finally. I feel like for all these months, I'm trying to get people to listen to us. And now we got Mike Fish. We got Andrew Riccadella, who's also from the neighborhood. So pretty much my people are coming out. So I'm happy about that. They're sharing the shows and enjoying it. So those are some things here. And I want to go back to the Mets here very quickly because
they're doing really, really well right now. 6-3.
Well, that's why. But that's why.
One more
Billy, jump in. Billy, jump in. You stole my thunder.
Apple TV Plus. You're a $365 billion company. Get a good damn camera. I feel like I'm watching like a security camera from 1980. This game. It's ridiculous. It's like it looks like a video game from like the early 2000s that's like pixelating and lagging. It's terrible.
Oh God, I remember playing those games.
This is what you do. You're a tech company. Have a good camera.
Oh my God. Well,
I don't know. I don't seem to have any issues with them.
Maybe it's just my TV. Then. I don't know.
It could be because you've always mine's coming crystal clear on my TV.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
before I got home from work.
I think it's discrimination because listen, I always talk about how shorter people and tall people get discriminated against. It's similar here, where I think the 4K technology that they're using. All right, is working better on smart TVs, but if you don't have that technology, then it's probably not doing well. So in the end, look, it's discrimination, and in the end, like I said, they got to get this fixed. They got to make this better so that we can enjoy it. Because I think like Justin said, I think we have another game on Apple TV, another one on Peacock later this season. Please, I don't think anyone is looking forward to it. Just give us Gary, Keith, and Ron, please.
Yeah.
Well, all I'll have to say is, boy, those Tuesday night TBS games are going to be easy to watch rather than all these Apple TV and Peacock. Because I was looking at the schedule yesterday, and I see that we're going to have Tuesday night baseball games, which I'm trying to figure out what's the catch in Tuesday night baseball games. But I guess they want more games on national television, which for us is going to be a bummer because that means less Ron Darling. Right.
Because because if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be either
Brian Anderson, right, with Ron
Brian
Darling?
Anderson, the guy he generally does Brewers play-by-play.
Yep, and he does basketball for TNT.
Brian
as well.
Anderson and EJ, Ernie Johnson. Either
Boy,
it's going to be a switch off. Like one of those two are going to be the.
I'm assuming we'll get EJ after the NBA playoffs. I think that'll be what I would assume, right after the playoffs.
Yeah. But then again, Brian Anderson's got to call TNT playoff games too.
All right, well, they'll figure it out. Listen, they'll flip a coin. Heads or tails, who call the game? I mean, we'll certainly.
Brian's younger. He'll take more travel.
I'm sure he will. I mean, but that's a separate point for a separate conversation. But I want to get into the Mets here. And so far, the Met lineup, and it's early, and it was the Nationals, but it looks a lot better than I thought. And I want to get to some of our Met guys here, and I'll go with Billy first. I mean, going into this season, and I know we spoke about the Met lineup, and we'll get Rob Maraska's take on here in, I guess, about a half hour or so, and we throw him on the stream. But is the Met lineup maybe a little bit better than maybe I and others anticipated? Because I'm looking at this lineup right now. Brad had mentioned Marte. Obviously, you got Mark Canha. We got Alonso. Lindor looks like he might be primed for a big. You got Nimmo. Nimmo, when he's healthy, is always good. I mean, it's a lineup at the end of the day. Maybe it's a little bit more lengthy than I had thought. I mean, is the Met lineup maybe a little bit better than people had given them credit so far?
I got two words for you. Positive regression. Almost everyone on the Mets across the board produced below what they do for their careers last year. So it's reasonable to expect that, they're going to, be close to their career averages this year to, balance out. They've established these baselines. It's rare to see a whole team drop like that and not have it be, partially randomness. And then certainly, I think Lindor is absolutely more comfortable his second year here. I think Starling Marte and Mark Canha were both big additions. I think, there were times that the Mets got a little too aggressive at pitches that were, in the strike zone, not really pitches you can do damage with. I think that Marte and Canha guys who are real good at, waiting out those pitches and finding pitches that you can actually really drive. I think that's going to help them. Robinson Cano has been impressing the hell out of me so far. I didn't know what he was going to do coming back from a year off, but his bat speed does still seem to be there. I mean, we'll see if he can keep it up for a whole year, but certainly he's making good contact. And we haven't even gotten into, Dominic Smith had an amazing spring training. I think he's going to have a big bounce back year. He had, a shoulder injury last year that he was battling through that no one really knew about at the time.
Yeah, he didn't say anything.
I think Jeff McNeil was really negatively affected by the information overload they got from the analytics department last year. So I definitely think that, look, we're, not even 2 full games into the season yet, but certainly there's reason for optimism. And there's also, health concerns, and, we're 2 games into the season. So we'll see where it goes. But definitely I think that, this lineup looks like they're bouncing back in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll certainly see, and obviously it is the Nationals, and we'll get to the Yankees' take on their lineup in a few minutes from Donald. But Justin, piggybacking off it, I mean, Billy made a good point, positive regression, and he did make a very valid point that most guys on the Mets last year really, really didn't have great years, and this was something we talked about on Sportswire radio shows where most guys pretty much hit below the back of their baseball card. I mean, but the only Met that I guess kind of had a year you'd expect was Alonso, and even that wasn't the Alonso of 2019. I mean, so is there a point there that you agree with when it comes to what Billy had to say on the Met lineup?
Yeah, 100%. It's clear that because, and this is why I was so against trading Jeff McNeil in the offseason. Here's a guy who rolled out of bed, hit 300, and then had a bad year last year, and you're seeing it already. He's putting together good at bats. He's got a home run. He's got a home run on his birthday. I mean, he's already looked more comfortable to play. And guys like Mark Canha and Starling Marte, they help a lot because they're guys who put the ball in play, and especially for a guy like Starling Marte who has a ton of speed. And that plays a big factor at the top of the order with the high on base guy like Brandon Nimmo, and then a speed guy like Starling Marte, and really sets up the table for guys like Lindor, Alonso, and looks like based on the first couple of games, you're going to see a lot of Eduardo Escobar hitting in the 5 spot, and and again, like Billy said, we didn't know what to expect out of Robbie Cano, but the bat speed looks there. He's another guy. He could just roll out of bed, miss a year, roll out of bed, 2 hits. He's just got that pure left-handed swing that's just short and quick to the ball, and it allows him to be very successful.
Absolutely, no question about that. And I want to get to some other scores here of note before I get to the brute force. And Tigers beat the White Sox 5-4. Phillies, as noted earlier, 9-5 win over the A's. Rays beat the Orioles 2-1. Dodgers beat the Rockies 5-3. Mariners over the Twins 2-1. Giants beat the Marlins 6-5. The aforementioned New York Mets are up 6-3 in the top of the 7th. The defending world champion Braves 7-3 in the bottom of the 8th over the Reds. And Blue Jays Rangers looks like a lively matchup, and I guess that's kind of a what's to come for both teams. 8-7 Blue Jays, top of the 7th. Astros and Angels just kicking things off here. 1-0 Houston, and Padres and Diamondbacks are scoreless in the top of the 2nd. So there's some scores of note for some baseball fans across different parts of the country, and of course for Tobacco Road Sportsradio.com for Desmond Johnson. So I wanted to at least do that. I mean, Brad, before I get to the Yankees, I do want to talk about Aaron Judge and some of that stuff going on there. I mean, Met lineup, Billy makes a good point. I mean, maybe this Met lineup is better than I expected, or wasn't as bad as maybe I would think, because again, Starling Marte, back of the baseball card, is good. Lindor obviously has got a track record. Even a Dominic Smith, Jeff McNeil. I mean, you go up and down the lineup. These guys, if they perform more closer to their norms, maybe this lineup isn't so bad after all, and it's not the weak spot for this team.
Yeah, I think Billy hit it right on the head. I think he's 100% right. Listen, yeah, of course, all these guys really did underperform. And, I think that we expected a lot more from all of them this season. And so far, so good, in the first 2 games. Now, I'm not going to get all ahead of myself over 2 games against the Nationals. But I will say this. I mean, one thing to be positive about is this. I mean, if you're considering, which teams have the best pitching in baseball, it's really the Mets. And then, you kind of question other teams in that, and especially in the National League East. There's teams to be hit. And I think if we continue to hit this way, it's really going to help us have success, considering the fact that, we all know what the Mets' issue has been, scoring with runners in scoring position, getting it done when it's needed. And so far, the first 2 games they have came through. So that's a positive. But in the end, it is 2 games. It is against the Nationals. But again, you mentioned guys like Marte. You mentioned Canna. I mean, Marte's a guy I thought should have been on the Mets years ago. I plotted for that when he was on the Pirates. He was a great fit for the Mets, and I thought they took too long to get him. But they have him now, and I think he's a really great factor for the Mets. And again, you got guys who not only get on base, but they draw walks. They make pitchers work to count. And I think that's a good thing. And one thing they don't do, and they haven't done a lot, like you guys said, is strike out. I mean, I watched to get to Donald real quick. I watched Joey Gallo strike out like 4 times today. I mean, listen, they're not striking out. And I think they're working at bats. They're making pitchers work, and when you do that, it makes the pitcher's job a lot harder. I mean, tonight you look at the starting pitcher for the Nationals. He looked amazing the first couple innings, and the Mets kind of made him work a little bit, and that caused him to make some mistakes. So I thought that's key. And if that continues, especially in this NL East, I think it's really going to help them with their pitching that has been pretty solid so far. I think it's going to be solid all year long.
Well, certainly when it comes to the Phillies and the Braves lineups, the Mets are going to have to be able to hit the way they've hit here the first couple of games. But I almost have to bring it up because Donald sort of threw it out there, and obviously it was the topic of most sports writers' discussions and throughout Twitter. I guess, unfortunately, in the fact that contract talks between Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees have sort of, broken down and gone to a stalemate here. We've seen some details come out here. And, Donald, I got to get your perspective on it because I'm sure we'll hear about it on the Pinstripe Chronicles show, which we didn't play today because we preempted it because, I was live. We had a live DJ, and we'll also play that and everything else with the show also for tomorrow. But, I mean, Aaron Judge and the Yankees falling in contract talks here. I mean, what's your thoughts on it? And it's got to be significant here. I mean, this is something that we definitely, at least I didn't expect, and even the average baseball fan wouldn't expect this. And give me your thoughts on where do we go from here?
Well, just to actually touch on the Mets, first of all, I think you guys should be really excited. I think you guys have got a really good team. I love the fact that most of your guys can put the ball in play. Marte was in free agency. Marte was the one guy I wanted for the Yankees.
Yes, I heard you guys talk about that on the show.
Yeah, I always wanted him, man, because I'm a speed guy. I know I'm old school, but I like speed at the top of the order. I think he's a perfect guy that's going to set the table. And then you've got Alonso and things like that. He'll do his thing. And Cano, listen, he's always got the bat speed. He's always got the purest swing from his days as a Yankee. He's got a very, very pure swing. Obviously, his issues aside, when he's hot, he'll do the business for you at the bottom of the order. So, and then you got your pitching rotation, and I think Bassett was such a great trade. Very, 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 very pleased with that trade. And it's not a massive. Huge critical factor now, waiting for DeGrom to come back because you got Taiwan Walker, you got Cookie Carrasco, you got depth, you got very legitimate starters right through. So I think the Mets are going to be the class of the East with the Braves. Now, to answer your question regarding Aaron Judge,
yes.
Well, I think the Yankees kind of deserve this because
Tell me why.
Well, frankly, the way they behaved is a slight bit of arrogance, really. First of all, they should have had Aaron Judge tied up years ago. After his 50-odd home run season, they should have been already negotiating tying him down because most organizations tie down their stars at a young age prior to them going to the very, very last year of arbitration, because then you're kind of backed up against the wall at that point.
Look at what we've just seen with J.P. Crawford and Brian Hayes.
Right. I mean, I didn't agree with the Yankees kind of just waiting till this time where Aaron Judge, they've already got a freaking half a stand named after him, for God's sake. You know what I mean? And the biggest thing about the reason why I think the Yankees kind of deserve this is because they've been making excuses all off season long. So the first excuse that they had for not entering into the marketplace was Hal's budget. And then they said that the second excuse was that, they need to keep their powder dry for Aaron Judge's extension this offseason. And when Brian Cashman said that, I said, oh, no. The reason why I said that is because any agent worth his salt would be like, woohoo! I mean, honestly, Brian Cashman played right into the agent's hands by saying that. I mean, if you're basically saying, "Oh, our whole offseason is based around re-signing Aaron Judge," all the cards are now on Aaron Judge's table. You know what I mean? Aaron Judge can now control the narrative, and there was no rush for Aaron Judge to sign a new deal with that situation. I mean, the Yankees backed themselves into a corner. Now, the numbers itself, I would have argued that he probably should have signed it. It seems like a very fair offer. But
He's an idiot for not signing it. He's 100% an idiot. He's going to regret this. I actually side with the Yankees on this. Aaron Judge is making a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Well, let me finish my point.
We'll get everybody's.
The reason why I'm saying that is because the Yankees back themselves into a corner. They have no leverage in the negotiations, and most agents and the player would always kind of back themselves in that scenario. Remember, the Yankees will still be paying him his arbitration at around about $17 million this year anyway, whether he signed a new deal or not.
Right.
So if he goes into free agency next year, you're going to have the Mets bidding on him, most likely. You're going to have a bunch of teams in the West Coast betting on him, most likely. And if he has a big year this year, then it's going to go a hell of a lot higher than what the Yankees offered. And that's the reality. That's the reality of this situation. So I kind of side with Aaron Judge on this. I think had the Yankees had planned this properly instead of just 3 weeks before the start of this season to properly negotiate with him, if they actually did it last year or the year prior, then you probably would have gotten a far more. I think that this kind of offer would have been accepted years ago. So the Yankees kind of deserve this.
But to counter your point, the Mets did the same exact thing with Francisco Lindor, and he wasn't even a lifelong Met. And guess what?
He had no spring training. That was it.
Yeah, and they came to a deal in the 11th hour. They got it done. The Yankees.
Steve Cohen has the money to do that. The Yankees have a strict budget right now. Steve Cohen does not have a budget right now.
But clearly not super strict if you're going to offer him 7 years, $213.5 million, tacking on whatever the 1 year, $20 million or whatever number it's going to be for this year. But like, there's no shot he sees $200 million in free agency. I'm saying it right now.
You guys signed Jacob deGrom when you didn't actually need to. And I remember I was listening to Michael Kay show and he was criticizing the Mets for giving.
I thought it was a good time to give him the extension. Honestly,
no. If you let me finish the point, Michael Kay was actually criticizing it, but I thought it was a really smart thing to do to give deGrom his contract. Absolutely. But that was years before. You probably needed to.
Right.
But it actually ended up working out for you guys. So that's my point with Aaron Judge. I think he should have been done years ago.
All right, those are certainly some fair points, and I'm going to bring in, of course, Chris Pizzaya, who you hear with the Talking Rifles show and the Liftoff Jet show, which we will play tomorrow, and we would have played it today, but unfortunately we had a live DJ, and I forgot to schedule the shows because I just didn't have the time and such, but that's here nor there. We will definitely play it tomorrow. I look forward to hearing it on a nice Saturday afternoon. But Chris, good to be with you. We're talking about the Yankees, Red Sox, and then kind of as a side point, we kind of veered off a little bit with this whole Aaron Judge situation. I know you just heard some of it here. I mean, what do you make of this situation? Because you're a Yankees fan. Obviously, you cover the team at the Talking Rival show, which you can hear for us pretty much each and every day here on Sportzwire Radio. So what do you think happens here between Aaron Judge and the Yankees?
What's up, fellas? Sorry, I'm a little late, but good to see everybody, as always. I think, you know what I think hurt them too was the lockout, because they couldn't talk during that whole time. I'm sure agents and players did talk during that time, but I think that hurt them a lot too. But listen, this was to me a fair deal. I get what Donald's saying. This should have been done way before this. It shouldn't have got to this point. But I think this was a fair deal. I don't know. Listen, he wants 9 years, 10 years, whatever it is. I get it. Maybe he really wants to go to the West Coast. Maybe he doesn't want to play here. He might be saying, yeah, I want to be a Yankee. Everybody says that when they're on the team, that when he's going to become a free agent, they all say the same thing. I want to be a Yankee for life. I want to be a Met for life. I want to be a whatever for life, right? That's just to gain a little leverage. So I get it. That's all good. And listen, I'm not mad. at Aaron Judge. If he thinks he's worth 10 years, 30, 380 million, good for him. God bless him. But I'm on both sides because I also agree with what the Yankees did. They can't just give out 10-year deals to soon to be 30-year-old players. So 8 years, I thought that was too much. That's my honest opinion. I would have went 5 or 6 and that's it. But if they want to go the 8, that's great. But now at this point, obviously he doesn't want to talk during the season. And I like that because I just want him concentrating on the season. And right now, if I'm the Yankees, I'm thinking about trading him at some point during the season because I don't want a guy who doesn't want to be here, right? And I don't want a guy who's going to leave at the end of the year because obviously we're not going to better the offer a year later, right? So he's definitely not going to take our offer, right? So at this point, I would start thinking about, listen, we got to start moving him. Let's start getting some offers. Let's see what he's worth out there. We don't have to go out, make it a big deal, but let's start, calling up teams and saying, listen, what would you give me for Aaron Judge?
Well, let me ask the optics of that, though, man. The optics would be terrible. Brian Cashman already said that they're keeping their powder dry to sign Aaron Judge. If they end up having to trade him, it looks the organization would look ridiculous. They kind of have to sign him.
Let me ask you a question, Chris, before I get to Billy and Brad's take on this whole Judge situation before we hear from Rob Maraska, who will be in the house. I mean, so let's say hypothetically the Yankees do move him, and I kind of agree with Donald. The optics, especially if the Yankees are going to be in the thick of things here, to move somebody that's such an important cog to the team and is arguably one of the best players in all of baseball here. I mean, what would be a fair return, and let's say you're going to trade him before the July 31st deadline? I mean, what would you think you'd get back in return if you even do that? Because remember, a team takes an Aaron Judge, you're hoping to sign him, but there's no guarantee. It's basically a 2-month, 65-day rental.
I would think a part of the trade would probably be, listen, we're willing to go the 9 years for Aaron Judge. You know what I'm saying? I think they would already be talking to the agent or telling the agent, listen, we're willing to do whatever you're asking for. I think that would be part of the negotiations. Because, if I'm a team, I'm not going to trade for a guy that I got to give up a lot for what, 2 or 3 months. So I would think it's got to be something in the realm of what the Red Sox got for Mookie Betts, right?
That's exactly my point. Yeah.
Right. So, which is not great, right? Because the 3 guys they got, Verdugo has worked out very well. He's a pretty good ball player. He's not Aaron Judge. I'm not saying he's Aaron Judge, trust me. But he's a pretty good ball player. And they got 2 minor leaguers, right? They got the shortstop who's not hitting yet. What's his name? Jeter Downs.
Jeter Downs.
Right. Not his stock is falling a little bit. And their third guy they got is basically like a backup catcher. So not Colton Wong, who's nothing spectacular. So they obviously did not hit on that trade as good as they should have. They got one legit pretty good player. The other 2 still question marks. But they got I would think it's something like that. Somebody brought up today on Twitter, what about Milwaukee for like Yelich and a couple of prospects? I'm not a big Yelich fan because to me, he's not what he was.
Could Milwaukee even realistically sign him? I mean,
I don't think they would.
He's got and Yelich has the back issues too, so I don't know if you're the Yankees you want to acquire that. But the thing is, the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts in the offseason when they realized that the deal was not going to get done. Now we've reached the start of the season, and the Yankees are just not a team that's going to be out of contention. I mean, you could criticize the Yankees offseason all you want. They're going to roll out of bed and win 90 games this year.
Right.
So
they're
going to be one of the best teams in the league. Like,
I think it'd definitely be difficult.
We could all wish to be the Yankees right now.
But the problem is they're not going to be able to sign him because he wants what he wants. Right. So they're going to lose him at the end of this year. So let's say
that's the issue with being the Yankees because why would you trade Aaron Judge in the middle of a pennant race? You're not going to.
They're probably not, but I'm saying there's
no way Brian.
Let me work in a couple of other people, and let me also get a few comments in here. First of all, John Gonzalez previously says, I agree with Chris. His age is a big factor. Donnie Pepin, who's also joined us here for the first time. He joined us here through Larry Frank's Frankly Speaking Sports Group, which we sort of hear on Sportswire Radio, but Larry Frank can never figure out the audio. So, I mean, I guess he's still a part of the team, but he says here, let's go Blue Jays. So that's with Donnie Pepin's position. And listen, I have no problem with that, Donnie. We love everybody here. But let me get to Brad and Billy's perspective on this whole situation with Aaron Judge before we hear from Rob Moroska. And let me go with Brad first. Brad, you've played, obviously. You're coaching currently. You've been a player. You played with somebody that, how can I put it in a nice way? It was kind of polarizing in a Frank Basile. That's all I'm going to say. But in terms of this Aaron Judge situation, and you can plead the fifth on the Frank Basile shot there. You can definitely plead the fifth on that one, Brad. But when it comes to Aaron Judge, talk to me as a player of his. Talk to me as a teammate. How would you feel about this situation, how he handled it? Do you feel like this would be something that, how can I put this, could maybe be something that's a black cloud maybe over the team in the clubhouse? Because now, with the New York press and without all the social media, this is going to be something that's going to be talked about throughout the season. So as a teammate of his, talk to me how this would affect you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you mentioned like a black cloud, on the team. Yeah, obviously we're in New York. We have the media coverage that we have. We have, reporters all over you. And obviously the story is probably going to continue to linger in the locker room, which is going to hurt the Yankees. But ultimately as a player, I mean, it's hard to, take somebody else's contract and kind of let it mesh with your own player, your team. I think it's going to mess with Aaron Judge a little bit, but as a teammate of his, yeah, of course there's that feeling of, you're upset. You just got this big deal from the Yankees and you didn't take it. Obviously if you're just any other player, you're probably wishing for that. But ultimately you have to just understand what the team's goal is and ignore that and kind of see, listen, the Yankees are a good team. You got to just continue to take care of business. Now, when it's what I said, it's actually funny because I don't normally do this, all right, where I kind of go 50-50. I'm normally, one way or the other, as we all know. But, I'm going to say, I'm kind of 50-50 on this one. I agree with Justin in the fact that, listen, Aaron Judge got this deal. Why didn't he take it? And he's going to regret. You just kind of saw what Michael Conforto did and how much that screwed him. I mean, now he's in big trouble. It kind of makes me think about Aaron Judge now. It's a little bit different because, like Donald said, I mean, they got Judge's chambers in right field. He's the face of their team. And how in the world can you not, foresee Aaron Judge in a Yankee uniform going forward? It's just, that would probably be the icing on the cake for me for Brian Cashman's job. If somehow he's not a Yankee going forward, Brian Cashman, I think that's the end of it. And this is where I kind of agree with Donald on the fact that what the hell were you waiting for? I mean, you've had Aaron Judge for years. If you had this money to offer him at this point, why wasn't this done weeks ago? Spring training was, I know it was shortened, but there was enough time to get this done. And to Justin's point, they did it with Lindor. It took to the last minute, but at least they were kind of negotiating. From what I hear, there wasn't good enough communication between the Yankees and Judge, and it took till the last second to finally get something out. And then, listen, as a player, it kind of pisses you off a little bit. You think that you should have got something, right? Or you know what you've done for this organization, and they wait till the last second to give you an offer. Now, again, whether or not the offer should have been taken, I'm going to take my stance just like Justin. I'm going to go 50-50. I'm going to say he should have taken it because I feel like he's not going to get it. But, again, to Donald's point, this shouldn't have been done the last day of spring training in the last second. This should have been done a long time ago, and the fact that the Yankees haven't done it is an embarrassment to the Yankees organization because this is your best player. This is the face of your franchise. This is the guy that has chambers in right field where you have got people coming with Judge's suits. This is the guy that is the
I
Yankees
couldn't imagine the Yankees doing this with Derek Jeter. I couldn't imagine this.
And they did. They actually did.
Remember,
they did.
Jeter got ugly, if you remember.
It did. Jeter's never forgave Cashman for the final negotiations because Cashman said, "All right, test the market. Here's our offer."
We had George Steinbrenner, though. We had the George Steinbrenner who made sure stepped in, right?
Yeah.
We have right now the current Steinbrenner, and we don't feel as confident about that.
But I still think, to be honest, the offer was still a very good offer. like Justin said, he may not get what he really wants. Like, what does he expect to get a year later? Right? He's going to be 31 next year. Is he going to get 8 years next year, and they're going to take that contract?
There's no shot an outside team gives him an 8-year contract.
And he could have stayed here. Think about it. He stays here another 8 years. He's going to retire a Yankee. The number's going to go in Monument Park.
Age 39 season.
Right. He's going to get a plaque. He's going to maybe, who knows, make it to the Hall of Fame. I don't know. But this is, it smelled so much kind of like the Cano thing. Cano wanted 10 years, right?
He did, yeah.
He
wanted
got it.
10 years. And we offered him a really good contract, but it wasn't 10 years. It was 7.
Let me work in Billy McInerney real quick before I bring in Rob Maraska, because he's going to come on here for a little bit, and I've only got X amount of time here for Northeast Streaming Sports and Tobacco Road Sports Radio. So, Billy, give me your thought on this whole Aaron Judge situation with the Yankees before I bring in Rob Maraska.
I'm going to go a little 50-52 because I think Don's absolutely right that the Yankees waited way too long to get this done. 8-year deal, a 10-year deal for, someone who's 28 is a lot different than for someone who's 30. If you want a 10-year deal, you get done a couple years earlier. Yeah. You're not carrying, into the 40s, so it's easier to do there. I mean, look, I also completely agree, Justin. Look, Judge is a great player, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's getting anywhere near that in the market. You look at Byron Buxton, another very, very talented, very injury-prone outfielder. He signed for 7 years, $100 million. Now, Judge is a better player than Buxton, but he's not $113 million better than Buxton, So I know no one wants to think of themselves as injury-prone, but Aaron Judge, dude, you're injury-prone. You get hurt.
Yeah, no, he's got 3 years where he's missed significant time.
The last 5 years.
Yeah, John, hurt your value.
John Gonzalez agrees. He says, look, the Yankees made him a fair offer. Yes, he's good, but he isn't Reggie Jackson. Yeah, I mean, he's had 2 great seasons in his career. I mean, he's had obviously 2 monster seasons, but there's certainly not the seasons that would maybe warrant this. And we're talking all things related here to the world of professional sports and more here with 5 of my guys from Sportswire Radio. Will be joined here shortly from Rob Maraska, our longest tenured analyst. That is Billy McInerney, formerly of Elite Sports, Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show, Donald Stewart, also of the Pinstripe Chronicles, also of Nerding Out Sports, Chris Pizzea of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals Show, and the brute force Brad Weiss, the legendary SJC Long Island Golden Eagle men's basketball star, and of course, coach for our Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV basketball team. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you like what you hear from us, you can like us on Facebook anytime at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player, like the Pinstripe Chronicles, like I guess Nerding Out Sports, Baseball Banter, Talking Rivals, Liftoff Jets, you name it, we have it. We even have a live DJ here, DJ Dale, who comes on here 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. British Standard Time. We also go live throughout the week. I guess you could say Larry Frank and Frankly Speaking Sports is a part, though he still can't figure out how to actually put the volume on, but hey, that's just here nor there. But we have a number of great shows here throughout the week, and I would hope that you continue to join us on sportnarium.com/player. I also want to thank Linda and Mac McGrath for playing some of these shows on their Northeast Streaming Sports channel on Roku, like the Pinstripe Chronicles, A Work in Progress, Talking Rivals, and much, much more. And you can catch us there tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I also want to thank Desmond Johnson of the Tobacco Road Sports Radio, where you can catch us there tomorrow afternoon. Last week, I think we were on about 1:30, so we usually are on at 12:30, so we might be on a little bit later. In fact, I'm going to tell Desmond I like to go on a little later, so that way I can wake up and actually listen to the show on the radio. But here I know there, but I want to thank our partners. I also want to thank, again, Odyssey Pro Wrestling and the LWF for granting their access to allow their company to take over the station and promote their upcoming events. So I want to thank the owners and promoters of those companies for supporting and believing in Sportsfire Radio. And we are talking all things related here to the world of professional sports. And we're going to bring in now our longest tenured analyst, Rob Maraska, to the stream in here. And Mr. Maraska, obviously, we're speaking a lot about Aaron Judge. Wanted to get your perspective here before we move on to the Mets in the fact of Aaron Judge and the Yankees contract talks breaking down here. Give me your thoughts.
I think he's making a mistake. You know what? Just look at Michael Conforto, and where's he playing now? And he's probably not going to be playing till July. I think it's a mistake because we know Judge is injury prone. He's 30, and Why didn't he just take the money? I think it was a mistake. What happens if he gets a career-ending injury this year? It's possible. Anything's possible. Then he's screwed. That's a lot of money to give up.
And also, I want to get to a story here, and I want to thank Billy McInerney for giving it to us. And in fact, I was able to just break it in. So thank you, Billy, for this. And update on Francisco Lindor. X-rays on his jaw were negative, and he passed concussion testing. So that is always good news to hear because, listen, who doesn't want to have jaw pain at this point? I mean, that is very, very painful thing to have, no pun intended. So always happy to hear that. So that is some fair points when it comes to Aaron Judge. And going over to the Mets here, Mr. Moroska, I heard you on the worldwide radio podcast stream, whatever it might be. Interesting talk there. And give me your thoughts before I go back into the Mets with the rest of the guys here on the Mets start here so far to the season against the Washington Nationals.
Well, it's 2 games into the season against the Nationals, but you know what? I'm happy with what I'm seeing so far, and I think one of the reasons is Buck Showalter. I think the Mets finally have a real manager, and that I think is a key for the clubhouse and for this team in general because, you know, it's 2 games, all right? But they're hitting with runners on base. We haven't seen that in a while. They're just the clubhouse. I know is just a different atmosphere, and I think Buck is really the main reason.
Let me ask some of the other guys in here on this, and I'll get to the manager perspective, but I'm curious on a different take because I'm looking at the Nationals, and it's pretty clear that the Nationals are going to be probably at the bottom of the National League East and certainly the National League. And let me go with Justin first, then I'll work my way around for the Mets guys, Billy and the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, of course. And Justin, one of the keys that somebody had asked me conversely when I was asked about the Yankees for the Mets was, to me, the Mets are going to have to beat up on teams like the Washington Nationals. And I think for the Mets, in order for them to be where they'd like to be at the end of the season rather than where they were at the end of last season, is if we're going to play Washington 18 times, I would think a requisite is going to be to beat them at least anywhere between 12 and 14 times. Give me your thoughts on how important it's going to be to load up on teams like the Nationals here and win these games that they need to.
Listen, if the Mets beat the Nationals 12 times this year, I think that's a failure. You need 15 wins minimum. I think they play 19 times. I think you're looking at 15-4 bare minimum. I mean, look at last year. We saw the Tampa Bay Rays beat the Baltimore Orioles 18 out of 19 times. Now I'm not expecting the Mets to lose only once to the Nationals. I understand the Nationals are going to win some games here, but minimum 15-4. I mean, if you're going to challenge the Braves. Because, look, the Marlins are going to be a tough team, and they've always played the Mets very tough, and the Mets have very, very much struggled against the Miami Marlins. The Philadelphia Phillies, we saw what their lineup did today against the Oakland A's. I mean, they eked out a victory because their pitching ain't that good, but their lineup can mash. The Atlanta Braves are the defending world champions, and, you know, like John Gonzalez had in a message before, the Braves are still the team to beat in this division. Let's not sugarcoat it. Yes, they only won 88 games last year, but they won a bad division, and they got hot, and they won the World Series. So you have to respect them for what they are, the defending world champions. They're the team to beat in this division. So in order to be with the big boys of the division, minimum 15-4.
Billy, same thing. You think it's got to be 15-4? I mean, I said I'd settle for 12 to 14 wins against the Nationals. Give me your thoughts in order for the Mets to at least be in the mix here of return to the postseason.
Yeah, I agree with Justin. I think you got to get 14, 15, 16 wins against the Nationals. You know, they're the only weak team in the division. You know, this isn't, you know, the AL East in, you know, like 2015, 2016, 2017, where, you know, the Orioles and the Blue Jays are both terrible, and you can beat them on both of them, pick up, you know, 30, 40 easy wins, you know.
Right.
This division is going to be a dogfight. It really is. You know, the Marlins, I don't know if the Marlins have a shot at winning it, really, but they're certainly going to be competitive for a wild spot, a tough team to beat, you know. Like Justin said, the Phillies, I mean, pitching suspect behind Wheeler and Nola. Defense is going to be a disaster for them, but they can hit. They play the hitter-friendly ballpark, and they're going to score a lot of runs, and they're going to outscore the pitching and defense some nights. And, Atlanta, you win the World Series, you're the team to beat. That's just how it is. I don't care you only won 88 games. I don't care that, you might not have done much to improve. You're the team to beat, and their team is young. So they're only getting better. National team, you definitely have to beat up on. And this has been, I think, the issue for the Mets historically is they don't beat teams they should beat. You need to win.
Always struggled against the Marlins. Always struggled against the Nationals.
Last year, it was the 7 games of the Pirates that were the turning point in the season for the Mets when they went from, I know they held on to the division lead for a while because no one wanted to win the division, but that was the turning point where they went from, all right, they're probably going to do this to I don't know if they can hold on for the year. So, they have to be able to beat the teams. They have to be able to beat the teams they're supposed to beat this year. So, I think, 14, 15, 16 wins against the Nationals has to be the goal.
And John Gonzalez has a comment in here, and he says the toughest divisions in baseball are the NL East and the American League. I guess I would probably say. I do kind of think the NL West is tough with the Dodgers, Giants, and Padres, but you might be right on.
The NL West might be tough too.
Yeah, because you got Houston, you got Texas is improved, you got the Angels, the Mariners. Yeah, I kind of agree that the West is competitive as well. But those are some interesting points. And John also says, remember. And great point by John Gonzalez before we get to the Brufus Brad Rice. Remember, the Braves got Acuna back. Yeah, but Acuna missed.
Right.
But we're going to get him back. The point is we're going to get him back, and he missed the second half last year. And by the way, the Braves still won the World Series. You're the Brufus Brad Rice. Obviously, you've been down this rodeo as a player. You're now at this rodeo as a coach. In order for the Mets to be where many pundits and certainly fans would expect them to be, what's the number that they have to do when it comes to the Nationals?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be a little bit nicer than Bill and McInerney and Justin. We're going to go around, 12, 13 wins against the Nationals. I know that it's kind of being a little, 15-4 sounds a lot better than 12-7 per se. But my main goal as a Mets fan is that they go over 500 against every team in the NL East.
Good point.
They cannot afford, right? I think the key is going to be winning more than they lose against NL East opponents, especially the Atlanta Braves, especially the Philadelphia Phillies. I think that's going to be the key. And like we said, there's reasons to have a good time against both of them. When you go play the Philadelphia Phillies, you gotta hit. You gotta score runs. They're going to score runs, but so can we. So you got to ultimately be able to score runs. And with the Braves, it's kind of a similar story. I know their pitching staff is a little bit better than the Phillies pitching staff, but at the same time, they're not necessarily the best pitching staff around in the Braves. They have a complimentary five, but it's not exactly dominant. If you're putting, I guess, your money on which rotation is most dominant in the NL East, it should be the Mets. And I think the fact that we just saw Tyler McGill pitch the way that he just did really makes us feel real good about that, because he wasn't even supposed to be in the rotation, and he arguably looked like Jacob deGrom on opening day. So, I was very happy with Tyler McGill. But ultimately, I think it's just about getting over 500 against each team in the NL East, winning series. And ultimately, you win tonight, you win a series against Washington. You got to win more against 4-game series. You win one more. You win against Washington. You win 2 out of 3 against Philadelphia, and you've already won 2 series against those 2 teams. Not only won the series, but won them on the road. So I think that's very important for the Mets. Just win series against these opponents. And I do want to – and by the way, happy to see you, Rob Maraska. And I think he is 100% right. And I'll tell you from being a coach, and not to brag about myself because, I believe I'm a very good coach. All right, but coaching goes a long way. And when you have a guy like Buck Showalter, who's clearly got the pulse of the locker room, who's clearly looks like a manager, is prepared, ready, backing up his players like Justin talked about earlier, the fact that when Lindor got hit by a pitch and he was the first guy out there pissed off, that's a leader you want to play for. And the way that he coaches, you can just see it's just having a coach. This isn't Luis Rojas, who's the third base coach of the Yankees right now, smiling at third base. This is not Rojas.
Or Mickey Callaway, or even Terry Collins.
No, this ain't none of that. Okay, this is a guy who's a manager, who knows what he's doing, who has experience, who's respected in the game of baseball by many different managers and many different organizations. You know, even when he was with the Orioles, everybody knew, right, that he was a respected manager. So in the end,
he's a guy that's had a long track record. He's also been in the game as a personality. So Buck Showalter is a true Major League Baseball manager. But let me work in Chris Pizzet and Donald Stewart in here before I get to more general baseball stories here for the Tobacco Road crowd here. And John Gonzalez says here very quick, which, John, I'm going to touch upon that after I get another Yankee or two thought. And Girardi is on the hot seat. If the Phillies don't make the playoffs, he'll be fine. I'm going to get to that, but I just want to get Donald and Chris in here on a Yankee thought or two. And one of the keys, I think, conversely, for the Yankees, and I liked what I saw today from yesterday's game, was Josh Donaldson had a couple hits at the top of the lineup. And I kind of think in order for this Yankees team to be even better, and I think it's still going to be a very, very good lineup, but I really think Josh Donaldson is going to be a big key to this season and to this team's success, especially offensively. And Donald, give me your thoughts on Josh Donaldson and what you saw, and if you think he's going to be an important key to this team for the success that this lineup's going to have going forward.
Well, first of all, I don't agree with inheriting $20 million of his contract at 36.
I know you guys are very vocal about that on the show.
But for what he offers moving forward, he offers a fire in his belly, and that is something that the Yankee locker room has lacked for the best part of 2 years. It's a very buttoned-up organization, and it often looked like they were, they were kind of tanking games last year. But this year, I can see it being different because of his personality. He's got a fiery personality, very similar to Garrett Cole's fiery personality on the mound. He's got a fiery personality. Plus, he's a very solid third baseman. Even at the age of 36, he's still solid as long as he stays healthy. And his bat will always be good because if you look at his advanced metrics last year, he underperformed his metrics. His metrics are always, his power percentages and stuff like that were always actually in the 90 percentile. He's still got a very solid bat. It's just it's just really a matter of him staying healthy. But I do like the fire that he brings to the locker room, because there was really something missing last year from the Yankees in that regard. So he'll probably add that. I disagree, though, that he's the key to the season. The key to the season is Aaron Judge and Stanton's health. As long as they stay healthy, and they will rake and they will have huge years.
That's always been the key. Can they stay healthy? Yeah, that's always been the key here. And kind of conversely, Donaldson himself, I mean, he's a guy who's also struggled with some injuries over the past few years as well. And in fact, one of the listeners of ours had actually compared him almost in terms of what he might bring to the clubhouse, a la Scott Brocious, maybe different players, but in terms of what they could bring. So that remains to be seen. I mean, Chris, give me your impressions on Josh Donaldson today. Gets a couple of hits at the top of the lineup, and how important that you think he'll be for this team and this lineup going forward.
Yeah, he's definitely important. I think also, I think just add to what Donald was saying, he just adds an edge to the team that it's been lacking for a long time, actually. We haven't had a guy like that the other team hated. Like, the Yankees have been like a likable team for the last few years. They've been that underdog team for a while. The Yankees have never been that way. Before that, it's always been, I hate this team. They always sign this guy. They always sign the highest guy, whatever. The last few years, I'd have to say, like, not everybody really hated the Yankees as much as they did in the past. Like, oh, you know what? I like Judge. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. I like Stanton and all this. Donaldson is not a guy. If he's not on your team, you don't like him, right? He's got that edge. He's got that kind of nastiness, arrogance, whatever you want to call it. But he's the type of guy you want on your team, right? To date me a little bit and to go into a different league, Claude Lemieux was that player.
Oh
for,
man, Claude Lemieux. I feel like Claude Lemieux. Did he win like what 5 Stanley Cups?
Right, but he was a guy you wanted on your team. If he
Billy
was on
got
your
that
team-
one. Billy and Justin definitely got that one.
Yeah.
Justin,
Certainly an agitator for the Devils. Too.
Yeah, that's the kind of guy you want on your team.
and
that's
he was
me.
a great postseason player. I mean, his
Oh, he
regular
was.
season was good, but he like morphed into like he was like a He-Man almost in the postseason.
He was always in the middle of a fight, always in the middle of a skirmish, and that's what kind of Donaldson's that he's got that edge. And just to kind of go back to the Mets for a second, I wrote down some numbers.
Yeah,
last
check
year,
with him.
because it reminded me, like you guys were talking about, what the Mets have to do against a team like the Nationals and even the Marlins, for that matter. The Yankees record, like against the Baltimore Orioles last year, right, was 11-8, which is not great, but it's not horrible either. But when you look at the teams that they were chasing, Boston was 13-6. So if the Yankees had one more win than them, they would have hosted that wild card game last year.
Yep.
Tampa Bay was 18-1 against Baltimore last year.
Billy made that point. Good point, Billy, earlier.
And they won the division by 8 games. So beating up on the lower teams are very important. So if you could sweep the Nationals, you got to do it. You got to get as many games as you can against them, because you're going to have a hard time with the Phillies, and of course the Braves. You're going to have a hard time with them. If you split with those teams, great. But the teams that the bottom level teams, you got to beat them.
And I want to, before I get the rest of the Met guys in here, for Donald and Chris, and I guess I don't know if John Gonzalez is being facetious or not, or it's a legitimate question. You never know with John Gonzalez, but and this is for Donald and Chris. How about kind of Khalifa? That's for you.
Yeah, he's a good player, man. I think he's going to be a good glove. He's not going to be a home run guy like the rest of the lineup. If he gets you 280, 290, that'd be great.
I'd take 275 with him.
I wouldn't.
He adds a little bit of speed to the team. You can move him around. He can play short, third, probably second. He could play catcher. So, I think he's a good guy to have on the team. He's a very versatile. Somebody who we haven't had in a while. So, I like it.
I agree. He's a Gold Glove third baseman, and he's almost a Gold Glove shortstop. He's not quite as good a shortstop as at third base, but he's still an excellent shortstop. He's going to make all the plays. He's going to be a massive upgrade to Torres at shortstop. And offensively, he will give you a solid 260, 270 bat. And that's kind of all you really need. What I'll give the Yankees credit for is they've focused on defense this offseason, because last season the defense was one of the worst in the league. This is so much better now. The infield defense is excellent. As long as DJ LeMahieu plays second base and he is a Gold Glove second baseman, you got a Gold Glove shortstop, you got a very, very good third baseman, you got a Gold Glove first baseman, and Rizzo just gobbles everything up. And they've got very solid catchers defensively now. Nothing offensively, but again, very solid defensively. So the Yankees infield defense is solid, and the majority of the outfield, apart from Hicks, is solid defensively too. So the defense is much better in the Yankees, and Keener Khalifa is definitely a big part of that.
And John Gonzalez says Kiner Khalifa is related to a Mets legend. What is he, a distant cousin to Ralph Kiner? Is that what I heard on Twitter or something?
Yeah.
So, all right. So
yeah, like a third cousin or a fourth cousin or something.
We'll see if he's like a tenth of the power that Ralph Kiner packed in the 1940s with the Pittsburgh Pirates. But I'm sure Rob Morosco was watching baseball back in those days. But a side point for that. Let me, for the Tobacco Road Sports Radio audience there, because obviously it's a more general audience. Let me work everybody in here while I have Rob Morosco here for a few minutes. And I'll start off with Mr. Morosco, then work with some of my Met guys in here. What are some of the other stories that you're watching for Mr. Morosco across Major League Baseball as we've just started the season?
Well, I want to see how the Dodgers are going to play out this season. I was talking last night on that other show about how the Dodgers are a beast. I think they are. And I think the Dodgers, have a great chance of winning another World Series. Their lineup, their pitching, Buehler is, I think that the Dodgers are really the team in the National League to beat this year. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at for the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are beasts.
No question that the Dodgers, obviously, with their moves, that they're expected to be back in the World Series, and I'll go with Billy. I mean, what is a story or some things you're watching across Major League Baseball as we've just started the season?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think for me, the big story John Gonzalez mentioned is, what happens with Joe Girardi if the Phillies have another, trademark 80 to 82 in the season where, they don't make the playoffs. They're paying Bryce Harper a ridiculous amount of money. They got to win with him at some point, So if they're not in the playoffs, I think Girardi might be gone. That's the main thing I think I'd be watching around the MLB right now. Then how Chris Bryant does in Colorado. I'm curious to see how that works out. I don't understand their logic behind, dumping out of a story to bring in Bryant, but we'll see how that goes. Maybe it works out for him.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And certainly the Phillies with Joe Girardi. I mean, obviously, the lineup is good. They're almost like a modern day Blake Street Bombers, Colorado Rockies lineup, and almost kind of the same in the pitching. I don't know if that necessarily works, but I mean, for you, Justin, and what are some of the stories you're watching across Major League Baseball?
In my opinion, two of the more fun teams that we're going to be watching all season. One is ready to make the leap into the postseason. One is not quite there yet. The team that's not quite there yet, but they're going to be fun to watch. That's the Detroit Tigers.
Good one.
Some young pitching, so they're going to have some growing pains there, but a fun lineup. The number 2 prospect in all of baseball, Spencer Torkelson, just behind Bobby Witt Jr., who also made the club out of spring training. Made the club and is the starting first baseman for the Tigers. Obviously, the addition of Javi Baez. But, I mean, they're loaded with young talent. And, you mentioned their win earlier today. It was a weird walk-off by Baez because it hit A.J. Pollock's glove and bounced off the wall, therefore allowing the run to score. And the other team I'm interested in watching is the Seattle Mariners. Seattle Mariners are going to be good, and it's long due for them. They haven't made the playoffs since their record-breaking win.
2001, yep.
2001. They added Robbie Ray in the offseason. They traded for Jesse Winker and got Eugenio Suarez as a throw-in. So they're going to be a very good lineup. They should have some good pitching as well. They're going to be all around a well-balanced team in what should be a very winnable American League West, because I'm not 100% sold on the Houston Astros, despite getting Justin Verlander back from Tommy John surgery. I want to see what he still has left. They obviously lost Carlos Correa. He went to the Twins. So, I think while the Astros will be good, they'll be in the playoff. They should be in the playoffs. It's a very winnable division for the Mariners. I don't trust the Rangers yet because their pitching really isn't there yet. They signed a ton of position players, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, just to name a few. But and the Angels, the pitching's always a question mark, despite having Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout. Hopefully Anthony Rendon can stay healthy, but it's really going to be a division. A division that's very winnable for the Seattle Mariners. So I'm very interested in those two teams.
Now, I got to bring in the brute force Brad Weiss, because I think he's referring to John Gonzalez's comment about, yes, Justin, Detroit is my sleeper team in the American League, because we know that John Gonzalez loves everything Detroit. I mean, John,
really?
Do you like Detroit? I got to jump in. John Gonzalez, do you also like Detroit-style pizza? Because we always mention the Lions here. We always mention, of course, certain things related to that. Now we got the Tigers, but the brute force Brad Weiss, I got to bring in here because I've heard some of the other guys, their thoughts on some stories across Major League Baseball. They're watching. Of course, I'll get to Chris and Donald as well. But for you, the brute force, and I know it's not going to be the Detroit Tigers. So give me a couple of things you're watching across Major League Baseball.
Well, I got to address this first. I mean, John Gonzalez, listen to me very carefully, all right? And you're a Detroit Red Wings fan, too. You might as well move to Detroit at this point. I mean, you're talking about sending me a Detroit Lions, jersey, a poster, and now you're talking about the Detroit Tigers. Just go to Detroit at this point, John Gonzalez, and root for Detroit teams. Because at this point, I mean, come on, man. You love Detroit more than anybody else. I don't want to hear nothing about me being the big fan of Detroit. You are the Detroit guy now, all right?
I think my favorite thing about Detroit wasn't RoboCop set in Detroit. I think that's my one,
John Gonzalez might as well be the mascot at this point. All the Detroit teams. That's might as well he might as well be. But listen, let me first say another thing about the Yankees real quick because I wanted to throw in a little comment with Kiner Falefa and his power. I'll give Kiner Falefa one little piece of advice because I once played Little League baseball and I was a pretty good home run hitter. All right, if you can hit the ball to right field at Yankee Stadium, all right, I think you'll do just fine because at this point, I think it should be considered a Little League baseball field. Okay, I mean, Giancarlo Stanton today hit a line drive that at any other field it would have been a routine fly ball to an outfielder, and today it was a line drive and it went into the first row of Yankey Stadium. I mean, the Orioles finally moved the fence back in the field. I mean, can the Yankees do it at this point? Because it's just ridiculous. I mean, little pop-up to right field and you're hitting a home run. It's ridiculous. But that's the way I wanted to say that. But
really?
Let me get to the team.
That's your comment about the Yankees. Come on. You're better
than
that.
Listen, I like the Yankees.
That's something John Gonzalez would say. That's not something you would say. Come on, you're better than that.
Stan would have had 2 home runs in the wild card game if it wasn't at the Fenway Park.
Exactly, a stupid wall.
It is what it is. You have to play what you play.
Well, listen,
you play where you play.
All I'm going to say,
come on.
All I'm going to say, listen. The Baltimore Orioles started the train, all right? They moved the left field fence back. Now it's time for Boston and the Yankees, everyone else to follow. It's just crazy.
Not moving because Baltimore did it.
Well, I guess you shouldn't follow their lead. But let me get to a couple other teams.
Baltimore moved the wall in. Well, all right. Let's do it. Fenway, bring down that wall. We got to lower the wall.
That's what I'm saying.
Yankee Stadium.
Fenway's never moving the conditions, bro. Brad, they're never.
Listen. You know what? All I'll say is this. You know what? The way that some players are hitting home runs in the AL East, I should try to get my baseball career back so I can hit some home runs and maybe get a career.
Focus on the softball field because the softball numbers we'll get to later have not been.
We'll get to that later. I'm going to give you 2 teams that I'm looking forward to in baseball. One of them, Justin kind of glanced over, but I'm definitely going to specifically talk about them. That's the Angels. I like the Los Angeles Angels. Noah Syndergaard, Thor is pitching tomorrow night against Verlander. I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup. And I'm looking forward to seeing Syndergaard as an Angel. I think that's one thing that we've been talking about is what if the Angels had pitching? If the Angels have pitching, all of a sudden you're talking about a pretty decent team. I mean, they have the best player in baseball for many years who's back healthy. They have arguably the most entertaining player in baseball who not only is a great pitcher, but also a great hitter. And they have, Rendon, who we all know as Mets fans used to kill us. I mean, there's so many, players that with the Angels that I think would make me pretty happy if I was an Angels fan if they could figure out their pitching. So in the end, they figure out the pitching. I could see them, in Justin Gianelli's point, to a division in which I don't know who's winning it, winning a division, potentially giving teams fits in the playoffs. So I'm going to say that with the Angels. And then the other team, which is also going to be the American League, of course, Chris and Donald, hold your ears for a second, okay, is the Toronto Blue Jays, okay? And how can you not be excited about that team? I mean, you talk about a team that's improved their pitching. You talk about a team that's lineup is young, filled with players that want to play there, that have done a great job and had great success in this league already, that are going to take the next step. And then on top of that, listen, I'm not Mr. Canada here, but I will say they got a pretty good fan base. And I think they're very, very excited. And if you get a fan base like that going, and this team going, a very young team, they're scary. I don't want to compare them to the New York Mets in 2015, but they do have a lot that's going for them, and I really like their potential this year. And I think they're a sleeper team to win the entire thing this season.
And John Gonzalez says Blue Jays are expected to another surprise team. Yeah, I kind of agree. Any team that wins, 91, they were 91 last year, 90 or 91, it's kind of hard to say.
They were behind the Yankees.
So the 91, so they're not really a surprise team. I want to go with Donald and Chris before I get to my thought. And for you, Chris, give me some stories that you're watching across Major League Baseball.
Well, obviously the American League East, right? It's going to be a 4-team battle, I think. You got 4 teams that are capable of winning it, not just the Toronto Blue Jays, but they are the favorite, obviously. Like you said, they made so many great moves. They're a young team. They're arguably one of the best lineups in baseball, if not the best. So, but Tampa Bay, every year, no matter who they put in there. They could even put all of us in their lineup and still end up winning games, right?
Mhm.
So, and then the Yankees, they are who they are, and Boston is the one team I think that might end up being fourth. I don't like their pitching at all, especially with Sale being out for a month. Who knows what he's going to be when he gets back? That's a team I don't trust as much. But meanwhile, they'll probably win the division, but definitely Toronto. But I think the whole East is going to be great. Baltimore is still a couple of years away with their young players, but getting to the young players, I think that's the one thing I'm excited about is there's so much young talent coming into the league this year and next year that it's just I don't think I've ever seen this many players coming in at the same time. Almost every division has that one player that's coming up. Baltimore's got a couple. You mentioned Detroit already with Torkelson. The Mariners have Rodriguez. You could go down the line. All these teams have all these great young players that are coming in, and they're all just stepping in and being major players, not just part-time players or fifth starters. They're all major players. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I mean, Bobby Witt got the game-winning hit for the Kansas City Royals yesterday. Not that I think the Royals are going to be competing for a division, but you know what? They're going to be a pain in the neck team. They got a really good lineup.
Yep.
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely, no question about it. And I want to give a shout out, of course, to Ron Laird. And just a little minor league baseball update. Of course, the Columbia Fireflies, which are actually a part of the Kansas City Royals organization, hit a 3-run homer to walk off against the Augusta Green Jackets on opening night. Yes, and Ron, I'm very good friends with John Casas. I think you know John Casas. He does some PR work for the Columbia Fireflies. And, of course, we've had on a number of Columbia Fireflies. And, of course, Ron, the Fireflies, as you know, play in one of the best ballparks in all of professional baseball. Just a wonderful fan base, a beautiful place to watch a game. So definitely always want to acknowledge the Columbia Fireflies before I get to Donald. And John Gonzalez says, Baltimore is so bad they just re-signed Matt Harvey. I guess that makes Baltimore that bad. But I guess somebody would have signed him. I guess that's the old adage. But for you, Donald, give me a story or two or some things you're watching across Major League Baseball.
So I have to completely agree with the panel, especially Justin, who mentioned the Detroit Tigers. Really excited about the Tigers. I think they're going to be really good. I also think the Mariners are going to be really good too. Quite excited about the Mariners. And I wouldn't overlook the Twins. I think they're not quite ready yet, but I think they're going to be an interesting team. I think they're going to be a lot better. I think Correa is a big addition for them. And obviously from my personal experience, I know Urshela very, very well. And I think he's going to be an excellent glove and a solid bat towards the bottom of their order. So I like the Twins. My pick would be, I would say the Blue Jays are the class of the American League East. I think they really are. If I was a neutral, I would watch every Blue Jays game. I think their team is so much fun to watch. I think the best team in baseball is still the Dodgers, but I think that the Braves and could certainly make things interesting. My hot take would be Max Fried's going to be the NL Cy Young. I think he's going to win the Cy Young Award this year. I think he's absolutely tremendous pitcher. And I think he's going to go from strength to strength for the Braves. So what's really interesting with the American League is in previous years, it was really top heavy. But there's a bunch of teams that are going to become competitive. So you can look at the Tigers, there'll be the Mariners, and even the Twins, who might not even have a winning record. They'll be thereabouts. They're going to take wins off good teams. And you've got the White Sox, who's going to be very, very good too. And then you've already mentioned there's going to be 4 really good teams in the American League East, and they're all going to take wins off each other. So I don't think that there's going to be a team necessarily is going to run off with 100+ wins. I think that the American League is very, very strong. And you know what's going to be interesting is how the Yankees navigate this season, because in previous seasons, the Yankees like to take series off. They like to plan ahead. They like to go, right, we're going to set our bullpen aside for this series coming up. And we like to set our pitching for this series coming up. We're going to rest our guys like Stanton, etc., for this series coming up next. They like to plan ahead. They can't do that anymore. There is no games off that they can afford to take off because every single game matters now, which is very rare over 162 games, but that's going to be the scenario with such a strong American League. And it's going to be a very interesting year, and that's good because normally as a Yankee fan, you're like, all right, well, when's September? When's October? But now every game pretty much matters.
And I think that's what Major League Baseball wanted here. And before I get closing thoughts from Rob Moroska and a Matt Harvey thought, since, well, John Gonzalez brought it up, I'll give you the two teams that I'm watching for. One of them, Chris mentioned, the Kansas City Royals. Obviously, Bobby Witt Jr. is there. Also, Zach Greinke comes home there. Obviously, Salvador Perez is back there, and it's an interesting team. I think the lineup is not that bad. They've got a good manager in Mike Matheny. I don't know if they're ready. They might be a year away, but I think the Kansas City Royals, kind of like what Chris said, they're probably going to be a team that's going to be a pain and pesky and going to be right at the doorstep. But they're getting there. I don't think they have quite the pitching, but I think
I don't think a single team in the American League wins more than 95 games.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
And the other team I'm watching for, maybe for the wrong reasons, is the National League West, the San Diego Padres, because the Padres, I don't know, they're almost to me like the Cleveland Browns of the National League of Major League Baseball. So those are my two teams here. But before we get closing thoughts from you, Mr. Moroska, give me a thought or two on Matt Harvey. I know you always have a thought on that, and then I'll get closing thoughts from you.
Well, I guess Baltimore would make sense from the sign, but what's going to happen to him with, all the other trouble when he was on the Angels, with the drugs and the dealers and everything?
I thought I heard a 60-day suspension would be possible.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens with Matt Harvey, but I figured somebody was going to pick him up. They said that he looked good in workouts, so hey, good for the Baltimore Orioles. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, listen, somebody always is looking for pitching. Matt Harvey's almost become like the Josh Johnson of Major League Baseball. He just keeps hanging on at this point. I mean, just for whatever reason. I mean, Matt Harvey, listen, he'll be 36, 37, and somebody will want him, I mean, at this point. So, I mean, look, God bless him. If he can get the work and can turn his life around, I mean, I'm not going to, oblige anybody or begrudge anybody for trying to work and make a living. So those are things out there. And give me some closing thoughts, Mr. Moroska. I know you wrote a podcast yesterday, a stream, Worldwide Radio Sports. Interesting guys from Patchogue, Long Island, which, of course, we know Patchogue because myself and the Brute Force, of course, our beloved SJC Long Golden Eagle, which I was actually disappointed, Mr. Moroska, and the gentlemen that were on, I don't even know who the names were, the guys who hosted the stream, no offense, but they mentioned Patchogue, they're from, and I'm like, the first thing they should have said was the St. Joseph's, Long Island Golden Eagles men's basketball team, which anybody knows, we do more for them than anybody else. So I know Patchogue better than almost anybody except Brad. So I was a little disappointed that the host of that show did not mention St. Joseph's, Long Island, but that's here nor there. But give me some closing thoughts, a thought or two on that show, and anything else, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I want to thank those guys from the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, the Sports Loudmouth Show. It was a lot of fun doing it with them yesterday. I had a good time. It was a good segment. So I want to thank those guys. I want to say something quick about Apple TV with these games. I mean, did they actually miss the first pitch tonight? It was crazy. Scherzer's first pitch, and I think they were at commercial.
Now,
so,
you have Apple TV?
Anyone could have got it today for free.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
So and it's in the rain delay still. So I mean, it's just, I know it's their first game, but it was horrible. It's just horrible. And there was another delay. The Mets always have these weird delays. There was a lighting delay.
Well, last year, I mean, guys, how many rain delays did the Mets have last year? It must have been a record. It was like, what, 30?
Yeah, they had a rain delay last night, and tonight they had a delay because of the lights at Nationals Park. So it was just crazy. But
I don't
know
know
what? So far, so good. I'm looking forward to a decent season by the Mets, and we'll just see what happens. And let me plug myself. If you want to reach me on Twitter, it's Har Moroska on Twitter and Rob Moroska on Facebook. And it's good being back on, and I'll catch you guys next week.
Absolutely, and good stuff there. Good work on the Worldwide Radio Network and the Sports Loudmouths. The guys were definitely loudmouths and definitely provided some interesting perspectives. And listen, all the respect in the world to the guys. We thank them for giving our talent the opportunity to go in different shows, and I'm looking forward to more from the future from you. So good job here from you, Mr. Moroska, and we're looking forward to having you here next week with us, my friend.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, and that was Rob Maraska, our longest tenured analyst, coming on here, and we're going to hang out for a little while. And in fact, normally I'd say we go to the 2-hour mark, but I'll just cut the audio and we'll parcel it out to Northeast Streaming Sports, and we are here then on Sportswire Radio, speaking all things related here to the world of professional sports and much, much more. We are joined by Billy McInerney, Binghamton University graduate, Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show, Donald Stewart, and I'm admiring Donald's Yankees set up there in the background. Got a Derek Jeter, looks like a book there, maybe the captain book, a Yankee, maybe autographed baseball there. So nice.
Yeah, I've got David Cohn and Derek Jeter signed balls.
Got some good ones there. Listen, can't go wrong with David Cohn and Derek Jeter for sure. And of course, Donald does a phenomenal job with the Pinstripe Chronicles show, and I want to make sure everybody follows the Pinstripe Chronicles at Stripe Chronicles or Stripe Chronicle to make sure you follow all the great things that Bobby Tats and Rob, and of course, obviously Lynn and Chris do as well with the Upper Deck podcast. So I want to make sure we acknowledge them for their hard work for Sportswire Radio. Also, Chris Bizet of the Talking Rivals Show, alongside Patrick Trotty and Sharman Phillip with the Liftoff Jet Show, and of course, the Brute Force Brad Rice, who's been a very entertaining Brute Force as always here with the Let's Go Mets shirt and much, much more. Thank God, listen, it was a Let's Go. I first still thought it was Let's Go Knicks, but it is Let's Go Mets. So obviously, the Brute Force is, we're going to get to the Knicks. We're going to definitely get to the Knicks here for sure.
Don't worry, Donald. We're going to get to it.
Well, definitely. It's been on my mind. Listen, it's definitely been on my mind here for sure. But the Brute Force does a phenomenal job with us here, and I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And we spoke about some baseball, and I want to at least for a few minutes touch upon the NHL. And Chris, it felt good to see the Islanders beat the Carolina Hurricanes. That's all I want to say here. The Islanders, that was a nice little win there. They struggled to hang on, but they won there in Raleigh.
Again, it's too little too late, but we'll take these victories. I hate being in this position because
I know
you're in this position where you want them to win, but now you don't want to because now their draft position is kind of dropping. I'd like to get a top 10, top 5.
They ain't getting the top 10.
They're going to stay in this till the very end and probably, just miss the playoffs or whatever. I hate being. It's such an awful feeling right now because you're not making the playoffs, but you don't want the team to quit.
It's purgatory.
Yeah, it is absolutely
purgatory.
It really stinks. So
that's the truth. Listen, I remember. Listen, that was the word. I remember. I think I was in CCD in Catholic school class. They mentioned purgatory, and I always stuck out. They were like, there was one place you did. I think the teacher, she said there was one place you don't want to go, and it's purgatory. And I've always used that line. We're in it. Now we know. Right. But obviously, and John Gonzalez, this is what's called in wrestling terms, we're basically putting a hold on kind of buy us time for a few minutes. We're going to get to the Brute Force, but I do at least want to work in an NHL thought. This is what we call buying time. We're buying time. We're putting a hold on the other person, and then we'll get to the thing. So, John, I'm going to give you a little inside wrestling tip here because obviously we do a lot in the wrestling world. So this is for the couple of minutes, and I'm going to throw it to Billy because I have to say, Billy, in a way, you were actually rooting for the Islanders tonight.
I mean, some people were. The Islanders lost in regulation. The Rangers would have clinched a playoff spot. Personally, I just wanted to get it done, so I was hoping for a Hurricanes win to wrap it up.
But conversely, the Rangers are chasing Carolina. That's why I was coming from that angle.
I don't want the first seed, though, because the first seed is going to play whoever finishes fourth in the Atlantic, probably, realistically.
Washington, most likely.
No, the Atlantic Division.
Right. Boston or Tampa.
Yeah, or Toronto. I don't want any of those teams. I'd rather see the Penguins in the first round. So I'd rather sit in the 2 spot, honestly, and draw the Penguins round 1. Personally, so that would actually that was sort of what I was hoping for. There was.
I don't want to face Toronto because Toronto can never win a postseason series.
There is that, but I don't know. I'm saying for one second. Who's actually in right now? Actually, Tampa's in that wild card spot. That's not a team I want to see round 1 for sure.
No, that's certainly I would not want to see the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning because they're the kind of team that they could just just get into the postseason and get on a run. You don't want any part of them. So I guess we'll see. Now you kind of took away all my thunder there with that. So that was my thought. And real quick, because like I said, John Gonzalez, we're buying time. We'll just let us get out of the hold, and then we'll get into the goal-in time here. But I at least want to get out of the hold first. And Billy, we were talking about this. We were talking about this, and Chris, we'll jump Chris back in with the NHL. And Billy, to me, I think, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you see it, when I think back when the NHL season concludes here in about, I guess, 3.5 weeks or so from now, I'm going to look back at the two most disappointing teams are going to be one, obviously, would be the Vegas Golden Knights, regardless of what happens with them. And obviously, second would be, well, the New York Islanders. I mean, give me your thoughts if I'm missing something, or is there anything different you want to throw out there before I throw it to Chris and maybe Justin for a thought?
No, I don't think you're really missing anything here. Certainly, those are two teams that a lot of people had very high expectations for, and the Islanders aren't making the playoffs, and the Golden Knights, they're on the bubble right now. I mean,
they're in a dogfight.
It's been especially they added Jack Eichel. They were supposed to be
they're supposed to be contending for a Stanley Cup, not just being a second wild card.
Yeah, right now they're not even in the wild card spot. Right now, the Stars are in that second wild card spot.
I think they've played 2 more games in Dallas, right? Is it 2 more games?
Yeah, 2 more games in Dallas. So, I don't believe, and I mean, I don't know what's going on in Vegas. So the Islanders, that they had the rash of COVID absences earlier in the year, had some injury issues, and the Islanders are old, so I'm not completely shocked by that. At Vegas, I mean, I don't know what happened there. I don't know. Maybe Pete DeBoer needs to go. Certainly, I think
they don't make the playoffs. I mean, I definitely think he's in doo-doo.
They can't. I mean, they fired Gerard Gallant to specifically bring this guy in. You can't make the playoffs. It just can't. So, yeah, it's I would say that the Islanders definitely up there, the biggest disappointments. I'm not really sure where they go from here because, we've talked about it. Some of the contracts they have are not going to be easy to trade if they want.
And there's nobody you really say for another team, hey, I really want so-and-so. I mean,
if you trade Barzal, you're going to be 6-7 years before you contend again with the contract they have in the books.
I mean, Brock Nelson's having a career year, but I don't know if it screams, hey, I'm going to get super duper a lot in return. I mean, that's really like the only player, maybe.
Yeah.
But even then, there's nobody on this team that screams to me, wow, you're going to get like equal value in return, or it's more than a dump. There's just
no.
Really,
That's all it would be. It would be a salary dump.
Yeah. I thought it too, Chris, real quick, and maybe I'll work a thought in from Justin before I get to the main entree for sure when it comes to the New York Knicks.
Oh, I definitely think Islanders are probably the biggest disappointment. I mean, this is a team that the last couple of years they've been to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they've been a game or 2 games away from making it to the Stanley Cup. And
last year we lost on a shorthanded goal.
Yeah, we lost 1-0, and if we won that game, we would have beat Montreal.
And we would have won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it would have been ridiculous. So, and to not even make the playoffs it's a disaster. I know, listen, I'm not making excuses, but obviously, the beginning of the year with the road trip and then the whole COVID situation for like a month where you had half the team out basically. So it is what it is. It's still no excuses. They still should have made the playoffs. I mean, there's games the last couple of months that they needed to win and they didn't win, right?
It was a lot of number of games. I think
lost
it was
to Buffalo, right? And games like that, you got to win. So just a bad job. Obviously, they're not going to make any major changes. I think they're going to run back the same team. So I think this team is going to be the team we're going to see next year, maybe with a couple of the younger players mixed in a little more. But I think if they start off on a normal schedule and everything, and they don't get the COVID issue again, I think they'll be fine next year, and they'll be in the playoffs, and then it'll be
Yeah, I think pretty much you're gonna look at it, and I'll get Justin in real quick before I obviously get to Dolan time. I promise you, John Gonzalez. Like I said, this is we're almost out of the hold.
You got to give the people what they want, Tom.
Exactly.
Give the people what they want.
Well, the person.
We give the people what they want, and we're working on getting out of the hold. I mean, Justin, you want to throw a thought or two on anything disappointments in the NHL before I get to the main entree?
I actually want to go on the opposite end of disappointment. I want to go in the surprise section. and this does tie into Billy's point with the Vegas Golden Knights. But one of the bigger surprises, if not the biggest surprise in the NHL, has to be the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, good point.
They've gotten good combination goaltending this year. Quick's been decent. Then you have Peterson as well in net. I mean, they've defended. They've defended well. Gotten nice throwback seasons from guys like Dustin Brown, Andrzej Kopitar. Obviously, Adrian Kempe has been fantastic as well with 31 goals on the year. And the Kings are going to be a tough force, come postseason time, and they're right now trending to with the Flames.
It's close with them.
With the Flames, seemingly you would think in bit command in the division.
Yeah, I think the Flames still have the edge to me.
Right, with 95 points right now, and then you got Edmonton. So right now they'd be looking at a potential matchup with Edmonton in the first round, and Edmonton
never wins in these spots. Never wins.
No, but you know what? The Edmonton's turned on the Jets lately, and you know what? I think this might finally be the year they have a deep playoff run. I'm feeling a deep playoff run, and I think Connor McDavid's really going to take over because him and Leon Draisaitl. I mean, you thought they could go to another level. They've gone to another level this year. I mean, it's just been absolutely insane what they do out in Edmonton.
Oh no! I mean, listen, the two of them have like 200 plus points between them, and they're literally like a 35 or 37% of Edmonton's goals.
Yeah, and I think the number's either 116 or 119. McDavid's on pace to break his career high.
Oh, he'll break. What do we have? Like 10 games left? Like 10 or 11 games?
He'll get to like 120.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say maybe even he'll shatter that. So yeah, he'll definitely get to that. So those are some of the things we're watching in the NHL for sure. And the Islanders, listen, they have no choice but to pretty much bring everybody back because, like I said, who really wants anybody on the team? And you are going to point to the fact, well, the 3 years prior, you went to the second round. You were 2 games away from the Stanley Cup in the COVID year, and then last year you basically lost due to a shorthanded goal. So those are some things we're going to get to. But John Gonzalez, you have finally gotten what you wished for. It has certainly been the main event, is what everybody wants to hear on Sportswire. On Instagram, we post these clips, and I get 200 to 300 people that view them all the time. And obviously, we're speaking about none other than those New York Knicks, and certainly an interesting week to say the least for the Knicks. I mean, took kind of like, in a way, I think the brute force, this was kind of a microcosm of the season. You blow a massive lead one game and then blow out a team in another game and everything else here in between. So the brute force, Brad Weiss, I'm going to turn it over to you because I know that everybody and somebody out there like John Gonzalez is going to want to hear what you have to say once again about your favorite topic, and it is those much, much maligned New York Knicks.
For all those out there that don't understand, by the way, listening worldwide, all right, let's make this clear. When Tom Bryce says this is my favorite topic, he's being sarcastic, all right? This is not my favorite topic. This is actually my most hated part of the show. Even though we're now going to anoint it Dolan time, and I might as well say it's Dolan time.
Let's effing go, baby. Get to it. Let's effing go.
It's Dolan time presented by the Sports Authorities Group at this point. Featured by John Gonzalez. Which
we're going to throw us out of the group now. John Gonzalez is going to throw us out of the group.
Well, listen, if you want all the latest on Detroit sports and the New York Knicks, you find the Sports Authorities Group. But John Gonzalez, I love you. But anyway, let's get to it. All right, let's get to the time. Let's get to the quote-unquote excitement of the New York Knicks. All right, listen carefully. Let's just start with why Justin Gianelli is smiling. Everybody's wondering. Well, no kidding. Yet again. The New York Knicks let us down again. And even though at this point I want the New York Knicks to lose games, and of course they screwed up tonight, okay? But I'll get to that in a second. The New York Knicks took on the Brooklyn Nets a few days ago. The Brooklyn Nets, who need every win because they're trying to get that 7 seed to be that top seed in the play-in tournament, they needed that game against the New York Knicks. And the New York Knicks somehow, some way, came out and took a 20-point lead without Julius Randle. Coincidentally, they're playing much better without him, okay? But they played better without him, okay? RJ Barrett had a good game. Many other players, including Emmanuel Quickly, have all of a sudden emerged and taken an even bigger step, getting triple-doubles and playing great basketball. And our guy Obi Toppin, who I'll get to in a second, is also playing great basketball. But we all know what happened. So at halftime, as you guys all saw, I reposted it, Stephen A. Smith, just like I would have done if I came on this show at halftime with the New York Knicks, was not smiling as a Knicks fan. And why wasn't he smiling as a Knicks fan? Because we all know the inevitable. They're going to lose. They always find a way when they win or winning by 20 points or more. They blow the lead. They do it in the time game, which is the fourth quarter, and they choke. And what did they do against the Brooklyn Nets? Not only the first, but the second time of the season at Madison Square Garden, they blew a 20-point lead, and the Brooklyn Nets walked out of Madison Square Garden. Kyrie Irving doing all this nonsense with his waving and all that. Okay, he goes out, he's all happy, and the New York Knicks once again blow another lead. And at this point, Tom Bryce, I'm ready to say it because I know that he's going to stay as the coach next year. But this is not just about the team, the New York Knicks. This is coaching. When you blow as many 20-point leads as the New York Knicks have, how do you not hold the coach accountable? All right? This is pathetic. Tom Thibodeau, this has happened with the Brooklyn Nets. This has happened to weaker teams like Oklahoma City and earlier.
Remember in Portland and going into the fourth quarter?
Yes. This has happened against different level teams. And I mean, when is the excuse going to, when is there enough excuses? I've had enough of it. Okay, they continue to blow big leads. I don't care what team you are. You're the best team in the league. You're the worst team. There's no way you can let 20-point leads go like this so easily. It's almost like the New York Knicks are going to let it go, and they always prove us right. It's unbelievable. At this point, Tom Thibodeau, even though I know he's not going to get fired, should be fired for this reason. You cannot blow this many 20-point leads. Now let me get to tonight's game, okay? They're playing the Washington Wizards. Last time I checked, coming into the night, the Washington Wizards and the New York Knicks had the same record. Now let's keep this in mind. All right, we don't want to win more games because the Wizards then have, we have a lesser chance of getting a better pick in the draft. Now, I all know how the pick goes, all right? It's not necessarily who's the worst in the NBA because we have the whole lottery and the balls and all that nonsense, okay? But losing games at this point doesn't hurt the Knicks. And what do, Tom Bryce? They show us they were going to get killed at the beginning of the game, and then they actually came back and kicked the Wizards' butt. All right, and I was like, oh, God dang it. Why the heck are you trying to win this game? Why are you doing this? So in the end, the Knicks just can't get us right, okay? Obi Toppin is playing great basketball, and at this point, let me just get to this right now, and this is the point where I might go crazy in my Dolan time rant, okay? Let's get to Julius Randle right now, okay? Because this right here, Obi Toppin put up 35 points tonight. He shot 63% from the field. He got 6 for 9 from 3, and he was efficient in doing both offensively and his defensive effort is 10 times better than Julius Randle's is, and his efficiency is 10 times better. His teammates look like they want to play with Obi Toppin, while Julius Randle on the bench looks like someone no one wants to play with, and I saw it front and center when I was at the Garden last week, okay? So listen to me right now. If there is any time to get rid of this man, do it immediately. The New York Knicks need to get rid of Julius Randle faster than a New York minute. He is not supposed to be here. He's a terrible leader. He's a terrible teammate. He's a terrible person, okay? I don't care what his kids say. All right, they're all upset. They're crying because Knicks fans are booing him in the Garden. Well, play better. Play better. Be a better teammate. You're a bad example to your own kids. When you walk out on the team, when they win a game, you walk out on the team because you didn't get your numbers. This is pathetic. And in the end, Julius Randle has to be gone. And then this is the last thing I'll say. Like I said, I was doing a birthday party today for a few kids, and they called me an awful referee and umpire. Well, I was going to fire back at a kid because the kid with the birthday was actually wearing a Julius Randle jersey. And I was literally going to tell him that you want to call my calls bad? How about your outfit? That is embarrassing. Don't you care for that kid? I did not say it to the kid, but I could have easily said it to the kid. You do not wear that jersey. That is embarrassing. And as a parent, you better not let nobody wear Julius Randle jersey no more. Sell the damn jersey, even though nobody wants it. because it's not a good representation. Just like Julius Randle is a terrible representation to New York as a city, the United States as a country, as a basketball player. We don't need to represent Julius Randle as a New York Knick. He needs to be gone so fast. Obi Toppin's the guy to play, and Tom Thibodeau, thank God that Julius Randle's hurt, because he finally needs to realize that Obi Toppin needs to play and Julius Randle needs to have his butt on the bench and out of New York as quickly as possible.
I don't even know how we follow that up. I'm going to bring Donald Stewart back in here. I'm almost trying to contain the laughter here, but a lot of what the Brew Force is saying is true. And to quote Metallica here, sad but true. And certainly, John Gonzalez has a comment in here, and he says, forget about the golf shirt. I'm sending you a Julius Randle shirt. Boy, that's below the belt, John Gonzalez. That is
John Gonzalez. I know you don't have. I know you don't have a Randle jersey. Do not waste your money buying one for me. It's just gonna get put in a place that you don't want it. Some nearby dumpster, some nearby, something. It will be in there. Don't even waste your money and send it to me.
No, send it. Do you have because we have them here, the St. Mary's church? They do a church donation. Send it to the church. If you get a Julius Randle shirt,
good idea.
At the very least, send it to the church.
What? You know what? Listen, I'll send my Matt Harvey jersey and other things. Those kids that need to wear things too, they shouldn't have to wear Julius Randle. That's embarrassing for them too. So you know what? Nobody should have to wear Julius Randle. Okay, nobody, because that's just embarrassing.
Well, that would be like if they were Islander fans still wearing a John Tavares shirt. So it's going in that territory. Yeah. So there's no question that it's going into that territory here. I mean, Donald, you're our resident Knicks expert. You obviously write about the team. I mean, you want to follow it up. You want to try. I mean, you have any thoughts on anything what Mr. Blue Force Brad Weiss had to say?
Okay, so first of all, Julius Randle, when he stormed off the court after they beat Chicago, that told you everything you need to know about Julius Randle. He is a diva. I mean, he actually stormed off the court like they lost the game. They won the game, and he still stormed off the court because he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with the way fans were treating him, or he wasn't happy the way the team was getting enough.
He had 5 points, that's why.
Yeah, he was getting enough touches or whatever. There's rumors out there that he's gone to ownership and he's unhappy with the fact that RJ Barrett is the number one option now. He's jealous. According to Berman's article, he's jealous of RJ Barrett. I mean, that is a disgusting teammate. And also, his relationship with Obi Toppin is ridiculous. He wants something to do with him. There's often times where Obi Toppin goes to give him a high five, he ignores it. And he didn't even watch Obi Toppin in the slam dunk contest. He was like, oh yeah, my son kind of watched that. I don't really care.
Where the hell was he tonight? Where was Julius Randle? While Obi Toppin was 30, wasn't even on the bench. He could have been a good teammate and been like, good job, Obi, nice job.
He's jealous.
I was injured for a whole damn season my senior year. Tom Bryce knows this. I was on the bench every damn game rooting on Jonah Caldwell.
I was
damn you,
Jonah Caldwell. I mean, you were basically like his number one fan. I mean, you were basically with Jonah.
And this guy too. Give it right back to Don. I mean, he unfollowed every Knicks social media page.
Say that.
He deleted all his Knicks pictures. What a guy! What a guy!
He's a diva. I mean, remember the time when Obi Toppin was on the ground and he held his hand up to get lifted up by a teammate, and Randle just looked at him and was like, "Nah, you're cool," and he just walked away. I mean, the dude is a diva, and yes, he's gone on social media and he's deleted all the Knicks players from his social media account, and he started posting passive-aggressive quotes on his Instagram, and. Do you know what he's like? He's like a 15-year-old girl who split up with her boyfriend. So she's wiping, she's wiping all the activities from her boyfriend's Insta and sending passive-aggressive Insta quotes. Because I've been on the end of that 20 years ago. You know, you get these passive-aggressive quotes on Facebook. You're like, oh, here we go. Here we go. That's Julius Randle. He is a baby. He is a diva. And he's an awful teammate. And the team plays so much better without him because the ball moves, right? And this gets me to Tom Thibodeau. I am not advocating for people to get fired. I try and look at the bright side of what Thibodeau's given to the Knicks, and obviously it's a massive upgrade to any other coach we've had since Woodson. It's been a long time, so I'm obviously hesitant. But then I'm trying to look for reasons to keep him, and I actually can't think of any reasons to keep him. And the reason is because we've been out of the playoff contention for basically about a week properly, or probably even 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And he's playing Alec Burks 40 minutes a night. 40 minutes a night. Alec Burks has played more minutes than Giannis Antetokounmpo this year. He's played more minutes than Giannis. He's going to play more minutes than Steph Curry by the end of this year. That is absolutely insane. Against the Brooklyn Nets, Burks played 37 minutes, and McBride, who he's supposed to be developing right now, played 8 minutes. And the 8 minutes that McBride was on the court, the Knicks were plus God knows what, and they were playing the Nets off the court when McBride was playing, because he was playing defense, he was playing on-the-ball defense, and he was moving the ball. Give the ball to Alec Burks seems to be the game plan in the entire second half against the Nets. It was just like, I'll just give it ISO Burks. Burks is a lettuce. Burks is about as useful as a lettuce. And honestly, he's an awful point guard. So it's so frustrating because you've got Emmanuel Quickly, who's developing. He's just giving you a triple-double off the bench. These are the kind of games where you want Emmanuel Quickly starting, and you want McBride backing him up. That makes sense. That is development, right? You're trying to develop a culture and a future going forward. That's why I don't root for the Knicks to be losing games right now, because they've got a lot of young players that need minutes, and winning is the only way that you can really develop, because we've tanked for years and it's gotten us nothing. So I think that seeing guys like Obi Toppin just go off, it's a massive middle finger to Tom Thibodeau for his treatment of Toppin this year, which was egregious. Obi Toppin, whenever he played with energy, he played with heart. And I'm not saying that he is the most wonderful basketball player in the world, but you need to give him an opportunity to develop. And his starting minutes, if you look at his minutes per 36 minutes, are very, very strong. Very, very strong. His percentages are very, very high. So I would say that if he got the starting job next year, I think he would give you very solid representation of power forward. They need to get rid of Randall as soon as humanly possible. And you know what's really terrifying? I've got a Randall jersey, and I've not worn it once this year.
Wow, Donald, you're certainly going on the record, man.
I need to get rid of it. I don't know how.
Wait,
Is there anybody that wants a Randall jersey? Please contact me. I am very contactable, and I will give it to me for free. In fact, I will pay you for the Randall jersey. It cost me $100. I will pay you the $100.
Certainly.
I want Randall's jersey so away from my cupboard, you will never ever believe. I can't even look at it anymore. It needs to go.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I showed my Darren Williams jersey.
You've got a charity, Tom, right? Or is it a church or a charity? Can I give it to him? Is anybody in charity or church?
We could certainly work on that. I'm sure that we have some friends in different places that would be able to work on that for sure. We could definitely.
Because it needs to go. It needs to be gone.
Let me ask a follow-up question before I get closing thoughts and get some of the other guys in here. Now, I want to ask this to Brad, and it's sort of, Brad, you'll get this because you played and obviously you're coaching now. And I was curious about this because the Knicks blow yet again another big lead earlier this week. And why do you think that has been? And Brad, you've played, obviously, you played under Kevin Spann, you played under Mike McSloy, and I'm trying to think back to the teams that I covered that you were at SJC, and I can't think of an instance at any level that really where a team has blown as many big leads as the Knicks has this season. So if you're a player, walk me through this and why is this going on and how do you feel? I mean, where's the accountability? Because I do think that, and again, this could be for anything in sports. When you blow as many big leads, and I was trying to equate this to a situation, the only other two situations I could think of in sports were 2019, with as many games as Mets blew with the bullpen, and in 2016-17, the Islanders missed the playoffs by 1 point. They lost a number of games in either overtime or they lost them late in regulation, and they wound up not getting a point at all. And those were the only other situations I could find comparable. But in this case, the Knicks have blown so many big leads that they're almost on their own island. So talk to me about the accountability factor, and as a player, what's going on through your mind when you're a part of yet another game where you lost so many big leads. I think we're talking, like 10 games the Knicks have lost by at least like 15 points or more, where they had a lead at some point in the game. So talk me through all that.
Yeah, well, obviously, it doesn't get much worse than that when it comes to losing. I mean, we all talk about, let's just say you're not a great team and you're just losing all the time, where teams are just better than you, and you're just losing because you're losing the whole game. It's different when you're actually winning and then you find a way to lose. And when you find a way to lose this many times when you're winning and leading, especially by 20-plus points, I hate to say it, it's not something that really should be held on the players. I know the players are out there playing the game of basketball. I know they're the ones that are not getting it done, scoring the ball, not being clutch. But, we all know we have the least clutch player in the NBA on our roster. But, the issue also is this, and I've learned this in coaching, and I think Tom Thibodeau really needs to take this and take it to heart. When your team is blowing a lead, and this is what Tom Thibodeau does a lot, he resorts back to what he feels comfortable with a lot. Like, for example, he'll ride the bench for a little bit, and then he'll go right back to the starters almost every fourth quarter. Now, if you haven't been paying attention to the Knicks, the starting lineup has been god-awful this season. To Donald's point, Alec Burks is the worst point guard I ever saw. In fact, he actually was number 1 on Shaq and a Fool this week, which for those who are, worldwide, the not top 10 plays on SportsCenter, he was number 1 because of his foolishness and his ability to run the point guard, where he fell over people's feet and made a terrible pass. So, that just says it all. But you keep going back to those who keep failing. Evan Fournier, yeah, he could score, but he cannot defend. To Donald's point, guys like Miles McBride, Quentin Grimes, what have they done wrong? They've actually played well down the stretch the few times they've gotten the opportunity. Give them a chance. All right, give other guys a chance. Julius Randle has proven to you that he just can't play down the stretch. He's not clutch. He's not ready for that moment. Give Obi Toppin a chance. But Tom Thibodeau, the issue is that it keeps failing the same way. And when you fail the same way over and over again, it's going to be the same result. And that's what you see. And ultimately, as a coach, trust me, Tom, I start 5 guys, almost every game. I'm one of those guys that doesn't like to change the starting lineup so much.
You're not a Ryan Hyland that'll all of a sudden decide, well, tomorrow or the next day I'm going to decide. I
like to keep the starting lineup relatively the same. But the starting lineup for me is never going to be the guys that earn the minutes at the end of the game all the time. The end of the game is for those playing the best and for those that come into the game and have an impact, not for the guys who started the game. You don't always start your best players either. Sometimes you bring one of your best players off the bench. And listen, to Tom Thibodeau's credit, I feel like Emmanuel Quickley has been one of the best players on this team and has done a great job off the bench. But to Donald's point, at this point in the season, he should be starting. There's no reason why. Why are we watching Alec Burks, who literally, at best, like Donald said, is a bench player? He can't handle a point guard. He's a 2 or 3 at best, shooting off the ball. He's not going to run a point guard. Let Emmanuel Quickley do it. Let other guys try. All right, because he's failed over and over, and Tom Thibodeau just continues to do the same thing, and the same result continues to happen. So until that changes, Tom Bryce, as a coach, I know you cannot always rely. And early in the season with my Plainview JV team, we lost a couple games because I was a little stubborn to the guys that I had started to try to finish games. I had to realize that sometimes you have to go with those guys, right, that have the hot hand, the guys that are playing well, right, not necessarily at the beginning of the game, but during the game. And that helped us win more games. And I think Tom Thibodeau just won't do it. He's stubborn to his own ways. And listen, in his past history, we've said it. I mean, he's burnt out players before. We talked about Derrick Rose. We talked about guys last year in the playoffs. And this year, he's just not doing any better with that. And
he's almost in a way a college coach. But because I'm on a timer here, I want to move on very quickly before I get to closing thoughts for everybody. And I actually want to work in Justin because we are on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. And, of course, the Charlotte Hornets are going to be a part of this tournament. And the Nets get a win here tonight. And when I think about the Nets, I'm going to think of Bruce Brown here. And obviously, it's still to be determined where the Nets end up here in this play-in tournament. Obviously, the Charlotte Hornets are going to be a part of this whole 7, 8, 9, 10 situation. But talk to me about Bruce Brown tonight, and talk to me about against a big win over the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have really fallen here pretty quickly here the last couple of weeks. But give me your observations here on where we go into next week's play-in tournament.
Bruce Brown's been unbelievable. He gives you high energy on both ends of the floor. He is one of the more impactful players on this roster, not named Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I mean, we all know how easy the game looks for Kevin Durant. We all know when Kyrie Irving is at his best how easy the game looks. But to see a guy like Bruce Brown, and to see a guy like Kessler Edwards, who much deservedly gets his guaranteed NBA contract, with the Nets waiving James Johnson, which makes Kessler Edwards eligible for the postseason. And look, you got to be high energy on both offense and defense, because the Cavaliers have a lot of good young players. The Charlotte Hornets have a lot of good young players. And, the Hornets, they're probably going to fit somewhere in the 9-10, probably play they might play the Cavaliers. I don't know how that shakes out because, of the way the standings are now. The Nets,
Hornets have lost some games. I mean, they've lost some really, really weird games in their own right.
Right now, I believe the Nets would still play the Cavaliers and the Hawks would play.
Right. And if each of the four teams win their games on Sunday, you would have the Cavaliers clinching the 8th seed and the Nets would clinch the 7th seed. But that's still up in the air. I don't know the exact schedule of who each team plays in their final game. But with that being said, you're looking at a potential for the Hawks against the Hornets, which would likely be in Atlanta right now if the tiebreak, unless the Hornets win and the Hawks lose, then that game would move to Charlotte. But look, for the Nets, they're doing enough. I still don't like the way they've gone through certain stretches of games. Like as critical as Brad was.
Today was an example of that, right? You have a big lead early, then they
exactly. And I do want to work in the Knick game for a second on Wednesday,
sure.
because you couldn't have played a worse first half. You couldn't have played more garbage in the first half, and it's concerning, but refreshing to know the Nets could just flip a switch, and look like the best team in the league. But their consistency is what drives you absolutely nuts. Like tonight, they got to a very hot start. They were up by as much as 20 points, and then the Cavs worked their way back. Now instead of the Nets blowing the game and losing, Kevin Durant, just took over the second half. Made the plays when needed. The Nets got the late run that they needed to, and it was a huge win over the Cleveland Cavaliers, because now the Nets at least have essentially locked themselves into a 7-8. I don't think it's going to work out to a point where they would fall farther than 8th at this point. I don't know that for a fact. But you're playing a bad Indiana team on Sunday. You should be able to
Indiana's
take care of business and then get ready for Tuesday night in the 7-8 matchup, which now has every chance of being at the Barclays Center.
And I gotta be honest, Justin, I can't believe I'm saying this on the air. I was actually looking at Vivid Seats here last night, actually thinking maybe I should make an appearance back at the Barclays Center and actually watch the play-in game. I was actually thinking about this. I mean, could be a possibility. I mean,
look,
we call it playoff basketball or play-in basketball. I mean,
tonight was their largest crowd ever. It was a sellout. Plus, they sold a bunch of standing room only seats, standing room only tickets. So, look, the buzz is at the Barclays Center. I mean,
I'm thinking about it. I'm definitely.
And the funniest thing is, Kevin Durant was 100% right when he said this the other day after the Knicks game. The 2 games the Nets played at Madison Square Garden felt like a Nets home game. And the 2 games that the Nets played at the Barclays Center against the Knicks felt like a Knicks home game. I don't know why it was like that.
You know, it's funny you said that real quick because I want to work in one more NFL story, then I want to get to closing thoughts.
Sure.
I've been to Knicks Nets at Barclays, and I've always felt that it always felt like kind of a Knicks home game, whereas I've been to other games and it felt the other way. So I've actually kind of felt that in the past. So that's something that doesn't.
And last thing, you could clearly hear the Brooklyn chants at the Garden on Wednesday. So
you guys,
Chris, jump in for me.
Do you think Nash? Do you think his job is on the line?
No, I don't think so. Because I think as long as KD and Kyrie want him around, I think he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, even if they go out quick in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know that Sean Marks is going to be very reactionary like that.
Okay.
I'm gonna say he hangs on, and the brute
One
force.
more year?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. You never know; anything can happen here in sports. But I want to work in here, Billy and Chris, before we get to closing thoughts, because there was a story that Chris shared here, and apparently Walmart's Rob Walton is set to make an offer for the Denver Broncos with a bid expected to be worth $4 billion. I mean, Billy and Chris, give me your thoughts on this. I'll go with Billy first. I guess we're on the wrong business, Billy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, you'd
have bought a team when we had a chance.
Yeah,
I can barely afford a radio station.
Right?
That's the moral of the story.
They could have afforded it. I mean, look, it's a good time to own a professional sports franchise. I mean, it's a different league, but certainly it pushes back on Manfred's narrative that owning sports franchises aren't profitable, because clearly it is. You're selling it for $4 billion at minimum. So yeah, I mean, I think we might see more movement among all the leagues, especially NFL. Certainly Washington, Miami, like Chris said, might be option to move. I mean, you see that $4 billion payout for Denver. If you own a team that's in a bigger market, you might start thinking, I could top the $5 billion market. That can be real appealing. So, there might be a lot of sales of pro franchises coming up in the next few years.
Definitely could see that, certainly with Washington, obviously Daniel Snyder and all of his troubles, and obviously that franchise. And again, if you look at it about Denver still has had a lot of success. They've won 3 Super Bowls and they have a name. So it's certainly, Chris, not like the days when, I don't know if anybody ever played NFL Monopoly. I think I still have NFL Monopoly. And you think about, I'd own this team and that team if I won the game, and you get all the stuff on the boards. No, it's not like that. Now they're actually playing with real money. But I mean, how significant is this that we see a bid here of $4 billion for the Denver Broncos from Walmart's Rob Walton?
I think, like Billy's saying, it might force other teams, other owners to think, hey, you know what? Maybe now's the time to get out. I still don't understand how Daniel Snyder is still the owner of.
You made that point a couple of days ago in our discussion group. It has been a while. I would have thought with everything he's done. I mean, the buffoonery.
I don't know how he must be clinging, unless he's got dirt on the commissioner or on someone else, which is probably true. I mean, with all the stuff that's come out about that guy, and then now Miami with the whole Flores situation, he's got proof of him offering him money. So who knows? And then the Texans, that's another one with a lot of shady stuff going on. So who knows? We might see teams say, owners say, you know what? Let me cash my chips in and get out of here before I get into some serious trouble, So it's possible. I mean, $4 billion. So Miami might be worth more, right? Because of the location. Washington, yeah, I think Washington too,
I would almost think now that the median team now has got to be in the billions. I mean, I remember there was a day where owning an NFL team, I think this is when the Houston expansion situation, and certainly when Jacksonville came into the league in Carolina, you had to have like 500 million. I think 500 million was the baseline. Now we're talking in the billions. So I mean that shows you that owning an NFL team, I mean, listen, you're definitely not in the poverty base, and you got to really get some change here. So I think that's the moral of the story here. And obviously, it has been an eventful Sportswire Radio here tonight. And obviously, I want to thank everybody that has tuned in and watched. And I want to get everybody's closing thoughts in here tonight's show. And I'll start with Donald first because I realize there's still a time difference with Donald. And Donald, I know you're also going to be a part of Pete Simonetti's discussion coming up at Yankee Stadium in June. You're happy to share details with that as well. And anything else you want to plug, anything else you want to get off your chest, anything else on your mind. And I can't thank you enough for joining us. And you'll start things off here with closing thoughts. And the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, to bring up what you're mentioning there, Pete Simonetti of NYY News. The Yankees are hosting an event for him at Yankee Stadium on June 25th. So I'll be going along with the NYY News team. So and a lot of fans there. So the tickets are $120, but it's free food and drink. You get there 11:30 in the morning. You've got the suite to yourself, and then you can watch the ball game afterwards. And it should be really good fun for any Yankee fans. So anyone listening can certainly ask me, and I'll certainly be happy to point in the right direction. So you can find me at Pinstripe Chronicles. You can also find me Nerding Out Sports, and I'm also a regular guest / co-host for Boys in the Big Apple podcast. I'll be on Monday, so you guys can just find that out on Twitter. And you can follow me at dstewart267. Final thoughts. Interestingly, Aaron Judge has come out public about his contract negotiations. He's expressed frustration that they couldn't come to an agreement. He says he wants to be a Yankee for life. And he did express surprise that Brian Cashman went public with the details of their contract offer. He did say it is a business. He did say, but it is certainly unusual. That isn't normal common practice. It does seem to me like the Yankees are trying to cover all bases because they know that the blowback from the fans will be massive. So they're trying to show that they made a massive offer for him. What's also interesting, let's not forget, is at the moment, the Yankees and Judge have not settled on arbitration this year. Judge wants $21 million. The Yankees are offering 17. Again, the optics, man. The optics from the New York Yankees is quite ridiculous. And I don't want to harp on the negative because it's been a positive day for the Yankees overall. But it is something that I really need to I want fans to pay attention to. Don't always just buy what Brian Cashman tells you in the media. You have to read between the lines. It's not very good practice to go into a war with your best player. Let's be frank. If he wants $21 million, I would just do it. Let's just move on. So we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't go to an arbitration hearing because that's just not good for either party. But from a positive side, I will say I'm really happy with the effort that the Yankees put forth. They came back like 3 times. That's a very good sign. They just showed a little bit of heart and some clutch at bats. So that's something to be excited about moving forward. So I think it's going to be a strong year for the Yankees. But again, I do have issues with Brian Cashman, the way that he's running this organization.
Great work as always, Donald. And of course, everybody can follow Donald Stewart as well on Twitter for all the great things that Donald is doing at Stewart267. You can also follow the Pinstripe Chronicles, also Stripe Chronicle for all the great things that Bobby Tats and Rob and obviously Lynn Chris do. And also for John Gonzalez here, closing thought is I'm setting up a GoFundMe page for the Root Force to buy the Knicks. Great show as usual. Well, John, you're going to have to get a lot of donations for that because that's going to definitely by the time you might collect those donations, we all might be dead. So at that point,
I'll go in with you, Brad. I think we can. I think we're working something out. I think we can figure it out.
Start smaller, John. I mean, maybe do like the D League or the G League at this point. I mean, not even you couldn't even do the G League.
We could go small. We could buy the Nets, no problem.
Actually, I've got something you could buy. Forget about the G League. Actually, the TBL, the basketball league, where our Tri-State Admirals playing. If you want, John, that I can get you. I can definitely get you the Tri-State Admirals and Coach D, and he would appreciate that because he's always looking for money. In fact, he hit me up for money the other day. So that tells you that they're struggling, and anybody could buy the team from that. But good stuff, John. Obviously, we'll see you next Friday, and great stuff, Donald, as well. Look forward to hearing the Pinstripe Chronicles tomorrow as well, and thank you for all you do for us. And I'm going to turn it over to Billy McInerney here for some closing thoughts. Billy, happy to have you as always. I want to give you anything else you want to plug, share. Can't thank you enough for all you do for us, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. You can find me on Twitter at WMCINE. For closing thoughts, I'm going to say keep an eye on the Mets Nationals over the next 2 games because, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Showalter after the game ended tonight said basically, it can't happen. The Nationals can't keep hitting guys. They can't keep, especially up high. He also said that Edwin Diaz is going on the bereavement list. His grandfather passed away. So,
so sorry.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate. So, but yeah, that's definitely keep an eye on that series. We'll see if there's any, any spillover, if the Nationals can find someone who knows where the damn ball is going to go when they throw it. And, yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely great stuff. And, of course, everybody can follow Billy McInerney at WMCINE, so he keeps it simple, short, to the point. So great work as always, Billy. Justin, I turn it over to you. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug? Anything baseball banter we should keep an eye on? So I turn it over to you, my friend, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, we'll get a first weekend recap going probably sometime Sunday night during the Sunday night baseball game. Again, I'm just completely frustrated with the whole national situation. I mean, it's just a joke. I like what Buck Showalter said. He's definitely a manager that's keeping everybody accountable, and I think that's going to bode well for the Mets going forward. And look, I just hope it results into better things. So you can follow me on my Twitter at JGNelly12 and the Baseball Banter Twitter page at BBallBanter SM.
All great stuff there, and looking forward to it. Obviously, really enjoyed the Baseball Banter show here for sure this past week, and I'm going to probably play it again and again and again, so I can keep listening to it and find out those great points that you and John. Also, shout out to John as well. And Chris, I want to give you the floor as well. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug? I'm sure that we'll get a Talking Rivals show at some point earlier in the week. We'll see how the Yankees and Red Sox transpire. We'll get some recaps on that, plus everything else across the league. We will also play tomorrow's Liftoff Jets. So I turn it over to you with anything else you want to plug, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Tom. Guys, great show as always. Yeah, we'll be doing Talking Rivals on Monday. We're going to recap the Yankees Red Sox series, and we'll preview the rest of the week. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about the Judge situation, but I think everybody's kind of talked about it already.
Yeah.
But, we'll be talking about it, obviously, because the Red Sox have their own issues with Bogarts and Devers. They both said no to their extension, so those might get a little interesting as well. So we'll be talking about that. So at Talking Rivals, we'll probably get it to you Monday at some point.
Sure.
And then Wednesday, Talking Rivals. We got our last kind of draft preview. We're going to be doing the corners and safeties. So that should be interesting. There's a lot of good talent there. And then the following week, we're going to do like a mock draft. I know everybody's done with mock drafts, so we're waiting to the very
Well, I'm happy to do one here on Sportswire Radio because we really haven't done draft coverage.
I'll do it. Yeah, we got enough guys. We could, get some good options here. So, yeah, I'm all for it. So, of course, at Liftoff Jets, and you can follow me at CP7NY.
Now, I don't know if I'm going to do a mock USFL draft, but
I don't think we could do that.
Yeah, I'll do an NFL one. I mean, I'll certainly recap USFL since I know that's going to start next week, but certainly I'll be happy to do an NFL mock draft for sure. We'll figure out all the details, and maybe we'll work some of that in here for a Friday show. And before I get to closing thoughts from the Brute Force, I do want to actually work in 2 birthday wishes. I want to get the first one in, which is actually for coming up this Monday. That's one of our very dear friends, one of our longtime listeners here, has been with us pretty much since the inception of the Sports Report. One of my closest friends that is obviously from the great state of Florida. That is Mr. Daniel Slavitt, of course, who's from Kings County in Brooklyn, but originally now he is in Florida. He's also passed his exam to be a certified examiner. So I want to make sure that we get a huge happy birthday wish to Mr. Daniel Slavin. Of course, a fellow New Jersey Devils fan like Mr. Justin Gianelli. So he definitely was upset about last weekend with the Devils, where they blew a 6-2 lead against the Panthers, and then conversely lost to the Islanders the next day, although he's still simmering over that. But I do want to wish Daniel a happy birthday. Danny's been one of my long time friends. I mean, so Danny's been with us since the very, very days. We're talking the days of the Skype days where we had the cell phone, putting it to the ear and putting the recorder next to it. So Danny's been with us from the very beginning. I want to make sure he has a very, very happy birthday, and time definitely flies, man. Wish you were back in the neighborhood, Danny. Obviously, thank you for all of your support over the years, and I definitely want to make sure that you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon, maybe when you come back this summer. So definitely happy birthday, my friend, and enjoy yourself, and I'll definitely see you soon. I also want to give a happy belated birthday, of course, to, well, the Brew Force's mother, of course, the most important force, because, well, listen, without the Super Force, we wouldn't have any force altogether. So I mean, I just want to make sure that we wish, obviously, Mrs. Weiss a very happy belated birthday, and obviously thank her for all of her support over the years, all of everything that she does for us, and obviously, clearly, the genes go well in the family, because, well, we wouldn't have the Brew Force without, obviously, Mrs. Weiss. So we have to wish her a happy birthday, because if we don't wish her a happy belated birthday, I'm going to hear it, and certainly the Brew Force is going to hear it, because, well, he's in the same house as Mrs. Weiss. So I'm sure the gentle force, the strong force, the super force, the special force, all the forces are listening, and may the force be with, obviously, Mrs. Weiss. So happy birthday. So that being said, the Brew Force, I want to turn it over to you. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Certainly give us a Brew Crew recap. I know it wasn't our most memorable week, but still give us the recap for the guys for listening, and also anything else you want to share, any other thoughts. And I can't thank you enough. You know the drill, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, Tom, thank you. Another great week, Friday Night Live here on the Sports Report. Billy, Chris, Donald, Justin, thank you guys. Always doing a great job. Always so much fun here on Friday night. Of course, you can follow me on social media at Brad Weiss 20 on Twitter, at BWeiss 20 on Instagram, and searching Bradley Weiss on Facebook. As per that, you know, Tom, you're 100% right. I got to give a belated happy birthday to my mother, Lil, who will kill me if I don't. So I want to make sure I give her a happy birthday for sure. She definitely had a good time on Wednesday.
Did you guys go to All American Burger?
No, no. So we did not. We had a good dinner, though.
For this place, which I'm coming to in a couple of weeks. So much for this place being so great. You didn't even take her there.
No, I mean, you know, we didn't. We had a good dinner anyway, so she was happy. Happy birthday, Mom, for sure. I want to give a shout out just because it's been fun talking to these guys, because these guys are really into the Sports Report. My good buddies from the best AAU basketball program on Long Island, that's Level Up Long Island. I want to give a shout out to Program Director Jesse Winter, our directors Trevor Stark for the boys, and Kelly Dempsey for the girls.
Kelly Dempsey, of course. Kelly Dempsey, KED train. Have to follow Kelly Dempsey for sure.
Yeah, some of our coaches, Nico Calendar, and amongst others, they've all been talking to me about different things we've been talking about on the Sports Report. I actually had a long conversation with Nico yesterday.
Get Kelly Dempsey back on the air. I feel like it's been a long time since Kelly Dempsey has been with us. I mean,
well, these guys, I think these guys got to come on the show themselves, because they talk about, you know, what we're saying all the time. And
well, then you know what? Then obviously these are big boys. I mean, these aren't babies. If they want to come on, I mean, I'm not a hard man to find.
So I'm certainly excited with the future with Level Up Long Island, and obviously with Kelly's making waves for women's basketball. If you don't follow that already, it's one of the hottest things in women's basketball going around.
You got a T-shirt out there also we need to plug.
Yeah, she's doing a tremendous job. So, and the last thing I'll say, because he actually commented earlier in the show, he's not, you know, again, I'm biased. I coach for Level Up, but Matt Hurd
this is going.
Matt Hurd in the Long Island Sound, I got to give him a shout out. You know, Matty's one of my best friends and a guy who I played with at St. Joe's. We're actually, speaking in a couple of weeks, we actually might scrimmage each other in 2 weeks, so we might go at it. Myself against Matt Hurd, against Brian McNeely, and their programs. So I'm looking forward to that. But certainly follow the Long Island Sound as well. They're a tremendous AAU program out in Suffolk County. I got to give them a shout out as well. And then, all right, all those people have waited this long to find out how I did on the softball field. So, first of all, last Sunday, I came on this show last Friday and said there's no way in hell we're playing because it was pouring rain on Sunday. But for some reason, the ABA decided to go with softball last Sunday in the pouring rain. My hair was dripping wet. Like, it was literally going down my eyeball. It was, like, so wet out there.
It was terrible. How did you guys play?
It was brutal. It was windy. It was raining. And somehow, some way, we played softball. I had an all right day. I got 2 hits, but it's one of those things where, I just hate when you hit the ball so hard and it goes right at someone. Like, it did happen to me like 4 or 5 times. I hit the ball. One time, I hit it so hard, the kid actually dropped it, but it went right to him. So it's just one of those things. Like, you just got to try to hit it where they're not. And I just had a hard time this week. So, in the end, Tom Bryce, the batting average is .429. I don't consider that bad. And I just got to get it up a little higher, and get some more home runs. So, it's been a good LI Brew Crew season. We're 2-2. We're getting back on the field this weekend. We'll be at Eisenhower Park against the Angry Pirates.
Much better weather this Sunday, by the way. Much better weather.
Yes, so we're back on the field against the Angry Pirates on Sunday at Eisenhower. So looking forward to that matchup and getting some more hits. But definitely an exciting night for the Sports Report. John Gonzalez, get that GoFundMe page going because maybe one day the dreams may come true. You never know. Maybe I'll be the savior. Maybe I'll be the savior for the entire NBA and New York City. So before the Brooklyn Nets take over New York, which is slowly.
No, come on, no, that's too far.
No, we actually have to
That's
now
too
because
far.
our team is the New York Harlem Underdogs. They're the real teams that run New York because they play in the ABA, and of course they support Sportswire Radio. So I'm going to have to plead the fifth in the Knicks-Nets argument and say, well, because the Underdogs provide us talent and guests, and they provide us listeners to Sportswire Radio, that's my flagship team.
Well, listen, at this point, like I said, Donald, I wish I could defend it, but if we keep going down the drain, the Brooklyn Nets are certainly going in the right direction, as well as the Long Island Nets, who actually made the playoffs. They got eliminated the first round.
I did see that.
They had a good season. They have some good players on that roster, so certainly exciting. But again, it's baseball season. Weather's warming up. Exciting stuff. Looking forward to it, and obviously looking forward to another great week of the Sports Report next week on Friday.
All great stuff. And, of course, everybody can follow the Brute Force at BWeiss20 on Instagram, Brad Weiss20 on Twitter, Bradley Weiss on Facebook. It's been that kind of last 2 days with my voice. So, obviously, excited about all that stuff. And I'm looking forward to now coming to the All-American Burger here very shortly in the next couple of weeks. Now that the weather, I'm starting to feel confident, is finally getting warm. I don't want to go when it's like it was Thursday or Wednesday. It was like 45 degrees and messy, because then it's going to be, a messy burger. How am I going to eat outside? But we're getting close to that point, so I'm looking forward to gracing my presence back in Long Island with the Brute Force. So we'll definitely stay tuned with an update for that for next week's show. So I want to thank everybody that is tuned in here tonight. And you're on Sportswire Radio and sportnarium.com/player. I also want to thank everybody that's tuned in on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, also for Desmond Johnson's Tobacco Road Sports Radio, and Lyndon McMcGrath on the Northeast Streaming Sports Channel on Roku. You'll probably get an abbreviated version of the full show on Saturday night, tomorrow night, about 8 p.m. I'm going to have to just splice the audio here. That's not a big deal. And you'll be hearing us tomorrow afternoon as well on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. So we are with Billy McInerney, formerly of Elite Sports, Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show, Donald Stewart, who's wide awake here from the Pinstripe Chronicles and the Nerding Out Sports Show, Chris Pizzea from the Talking Rivals and the Liftoff Jet Show, Rob Maraska, who's with us here for a little while, and, of course, the Brute Force Brad Weiss of the Level Up Basketball Organization, which we will get some of those coaches on for sure. Also, of course, of our beloved LI Brew Crew, which you can follow again on Instagram at LI Brew Crew, and make sure everybody follows the team Also from our SJC Long Island Golden Eagles men's basketball program as an alum, and our Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV coach. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you are on sportnarium.com/player, you will be getting a repeat of the Sit Down Mark show here in about 13 or so minutes. You will get some content. You're going to get the Talking Rivals right after that. So if you're up somewhere, you want to hear some baseball talk, you get Chris and Patrick, and then you'll also get the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast and a brand new Ammo and Danny to get us ready for Premier League and much, much more with their twist. So I want to thank Ammo and Danny for that. So I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. I want to thank everybody that has tuned in. We will be back Monday night, UK time, about 9 o'clock. We'll be talking LWF Slamaganza. So we'll have a full week ahead of wrestling coverage for the LWF and Odyssey Pro Wrestling. So I want to thank our partners there. So thank you, everybody, and good night. And we'll be back with everybody here Monday night, UK time. Thank you.
Thanks.
You got it.